Hi, welcome to Montana State of Minds with me, Montana. We are diverting from our usual campy soap opera antics, and this week's book is going to take note of The Sopranos, Mad Men, in the sense that it is going to be a lot more darker and more dramatic, very enjoyable. Very well written. Again, very well written. Amazing book. But wow. I was exhausted, not in the sense of having to push through this book. I was exhausted, and I'm not exaggerating for YouTube views or, oh my goodness. But I was exhausted with so much happens in this book. Every page is exhausting. It is the most, again, it is like The Sopranos or Mad Men or any of those other darker shows, in the sense that there's not a lot of people to root for. These characters are miserable people caught in a miserable time, and they kind of lead somewhat miserable lives, depending on who you ask. But that does not mean that the story itself is bad. The story's good. It's just a lot. This week's book is Mexican Fire by Martha Hicks. I chose this book because I'm trying to get more people of color-centered novels and authors. I do have some amazing Black authors. I have some Native American stories coming up for November. I even found a really good Jewish-centered novel for Hanukkah season. I am trying to include everybody here, but let's be honest, a lot of these are white woman-centered or white guy-centered. There's always a white person in the mix. I'm also trying to find, there is a genre of queer novels written in the 60s and 70s, and they're very hard to find. But I am trying to find those because I would love to read those too. I chose Mexican Fire because the main character is a Mexican woman. This takes place in Mexico. And I was curious as to how Martha Hicks was going to write this. Was it going to be a fetishized version of a Mexican woman that we always see of, ooh, she is so strong and loud and bossy and not a lot of layers. Is the white man in this novel going to be wow, she's so fiery, she's so passionate, she's a hot Mexican lover? Are we going to see that? We don't. We see a lot more. These characters are very layered. I don't know where to place them, honestly. I don't know how I feel about this story, this book, these characters. I'm still so exhausted from reading it. But anyways, and how this video is going to go, if you're new, this is a new concept for me too. So we're still trying to figure out kind of the layout of this. But we are going to do some highly fictionalized, completely pulled out of our ass author lore that we all love. We love to make up some lore about these women that write these books based on their pictures. We are going to discuss the cover, the artwork, because in and itself, these covers deserve their own discussion moments. Because once again, these are works of art. I'm going to give the vibe of this story, the generalization of who these people are, just to see if you want to hear about it. And then we're going to recap. And this one might be a doozy of a recap because this is so much happens, and I won't bog down with so many details. But again, this is my channel, and so I will talk about what I deem was important to the story. And if you read it yourself, you might be like, you completely missed this whole part. I didn't deem it important enough. And then in the end, I will give my opinions and critiques and criticisms, or loves and not loves. I will give my opinion pieces. And then at the very end, always stay tuned to the very end or cheat and just skip to that chapter. I will discuss the next book, of which I'm really thrilled because it's late September, so it's already spooky season. We all know September is just Halloween Eve. And so I have 4 spooky novels from the 60s and 70s that I'm super excited to read because we need a little, break from the historical romance grown American girl novels, if you will. Which is so true. Ever since I made the comment that these are just American girl novels for grown-ups, that's all I read them as. I'm like, this is absolutely, grown Samantha, grown Addie, grown Josefina, these are just grown American girl novels. Let's get into some author lore. We have here Miss Martha Hicks. And when I say author lore, I'm talking about this is completely fictionalized. This is not real. This is just us having fun, looking at these profile pictures and just making up who we think these women are, because that's more fun than reality. Oh my God. I hate when you get mascara crumb in your eye. This is awful. Help. Now, when I see Martha Hicks, I immediately am reminded of a cheer sponsor, not the coach, the sponsor, but because she's the cheer sponsor or the dance team sponsor, she thinks she has every say-so in what happens with the cheer and dance team. And she shows up to all the practices, and you're grateful she's sponsoring. Her husband's got he's got some money. She's probably not necessarily principal of the school. She might be vice principal. She honestly might just be the home ec teacher, because I know a lot of home ec teachers that are kind of like super this vibe. But she's definitely involved in the school education system of some sort. And she's gonna have such an opinion on what the girls are wearing, their routines. She wants it to be really old school. She wants it to be like her heyday. But I'm sorry, we don't want to wear the giant pleated skirts. We don't want to wear the big like bobby socks. Oh my God, she doesn't want a lot of makeup, but she wants like the brightest red lipstick. Oh, it drives me crazy. She doesn't want us to like have tons of makeup on because we're too young, but then she wants us to have huge lipstick that's like blue toned, and I can't wear blue toned lipstick. I have yellow undertones. I need an orange based red lipstick. I'm trying to tell Miss Hicks that. She does not listen to me, and she's telling me I'm giving her a hard time. Ugh. At the luncheon where Miss Janelle and Miss Terry are at, remember, they're having fun. They're playing like gym running or poker or whatever. They're hooting and hollering, having a good time with their wine coolers. Now, Miss Martha Hicks. Oh, God. Okay. I'm sorry. She might be a lovely lady. She's going to hate my author lore because I just see this and I'm just seeing she is a part of the group of the moms and the older women that are talking. And you know those groups of people? Everybody has this group where they talk constantly, but it's about nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? They're all chatting. Her group is chatting, but it's about nothing. And I'm not saying every topic needs to be like some hard-hitting political, religious like debate. I'm just saying they're all talking, but when you listen, it's just like literally white noise. These white ladies talking. It's literal white noise. My mom, I had an orthodontist, and my mom said, and he would talk the whole appointment. And my mom said listening to him talk was like listening to an oscillating fan. And she was like, it was just hot air, just blown constantly. She's like, he talked for 45 minutes. What did he say? Nothing. If you know, you know. Like, I don't know how to explain it. But anyways, she is part of that group of women where they're just chit-chattering away, talking about their Jell-O salads. She is probably going to bring a very unseasoned, healthy casserole of some sort, or like sandwiches or something, like little tea sandwiches or something. She is definitely on Weight Watchers. She definitely eats lean cuisines, and she pressurizes the cheer and dance squad too as well. You know, she wants us to also be having eating disorders. She also probably really, really loves Pandora bracelets and wears White Diamonds by Elizabeth Taylor. Let's get into this cover. As always, they're always not super accurate. Sometimes they are more accurate than others. I think, again, it's like a TJ Jacobus Goosebumps thing where they are given the title and what it's kind of about, and then they just go off of that. This one, however, is super accurate because it is a Mexican woman with dark hair. She's beautiful, gorgeous. The guy, his name is Reese. Blonde hair, mustache, Texas guy. Easy enough, you know? Now, this one has an island, which is true because that must be the prison. Maybe. I don't know. And in the back, we have her. Hold on. Let me pop that up. We have her in some, Spanish garb. He is in his colonel stuff with his little boots, and they're in a plaza, and it's pretty close. She does have some moments where she wears Spanish influenced outfits, but just to look at the cover and admire the artwork, the ocean behind this is super detailed. The jungle behind them is super detailed. If this story wasn't super dark, I wouldn't mind having a picture of it, like a painting or something. But after knowing the story, I'm kind of like, I would just be really stressed out looking at it. I'm kind of at loss for words as to how to encompass this novel to get y'all the vibe to see if you want to hear it. Again, I feel like our past ones were more soap opera, camp. They dealt with all of these deal with dark themes. They're not silly books. These aren't silly little smut novels. These are very hard hitting, well researched. I'll give them that. I'll give these authors that. They do really research these novels. I had to kind of do a side quest on this novel and learn a lot about what is happening at this time. We'll get to it. And the characters involved. And I'll give Martha Hicks credit for a white woman writing a story about Mexican history. She did her duty. It's very well researched. Now keep in mind, this is a fictional book. Did these real people say these things? No, because the main characters don't exist. Is it going to be 100% based on real events? No, because again, these fictional characters, the main characters, don't exist. So do understand that. Also, please don't come for me if you're angry at what is written in this book. I didn't write it. I didn't write it. I'm just recapping it. Now, again, I had to kind of do a side quest and research a lot of this just to make sure, because if you can imagine, the Louisiana public education system didn't spend a lot of time on Mexican history. Now, I did know enough because my dad's a huge history buff. And so I did know enough of Mexican history, but I did have to text and talk to my friends who grew up in Mexico and just ask them, like, what were y'all taught about? Like, Santa Anna is a big character in this novel. And they were just like, he was just, a guy, he freed us from the Spaniards, but he kind of got addicted to drugs and went really, really paranoid in the end. Tale as old as time with a dictator. Very complicated figure from what I gather. They didn't really think he was that big. He's not a huge figure in modern Mexico, if you can imagine. When I say Mad Men Sopranos, I'm saying this is a very complex, detailed, rich story. Okay? If our other stories were snacks, were fun romps. This is the whole roast chicken. This is the entree. This is what we've been working up to. This is a lot. Okay. Chew slowly. Don't choke. And I recount these stories as I read them to my husband to practice my storytelling and to kind of get like what y'all would maybe say in these times. And every time I would call him to tell him, because he's like at work and I'm just like, you won't believe what I just read. And I would just tell him like literally what happened in one chapter. And he's like, Jesus Christ, what is going on in these books? And he's like, oh my God, I know. Again, this is why I have this channel, is because I'm trying to get people to realize these books are amazing. These books are not smut, because guess what? You can't write this much of a sex scene. There has to have some freaking plot. And again, I know I keep hating on Stephen King. If I'm to go down in history, let it be known, Stephen King's biggest hater. Great screenwriter. He's a very creative man, okay, for a movie. Novels, however, not a good writer. There, I said it. Not a good writer. I thought Pet Sematary was super fucking boring, and I have kids that age. But again, Stephen King, Tom Clancy, let me look at some of my husband's books here, because he obviously reads male authors. Tony Hillerman. Anyways, The Shadow of the Gods guy, that guy, prominent, serious books because they're written for men and these are action packed and there's sex scenes. My husband tells me what he reads and there's sex scenes in those, but they're not smut. No. Those are about spies. Those are about spies and espionage and war. What the fuck you think happens in here? Sorry. Anyways, if my testament to YouTube is this, it is, I will get people to understand this is real literature. These are big novels, okay? If Book Talk could only know these novels, we would be sending royalty checks to Miss Janelle, for her to get new bedazzled blouses. Anyways, sorry. You'll learn real quick. I kind of go on some rambles. I'll try to edit them as best I can. Now, trigger warnings. There's sexual assault in these. There's animal abuse. There's deaths. There's murders. Just anything you can imagine. It probably happens in this book. I will delicately tell you what's happening. I'm not going to tell you and then he did that, because that's not what it's important, but it's not what we're here to listen to. Okay. So don't worry. I'll give you a warning before anything terrible happens so you can plug your ears. And these characters, so the main characters are going to be Alejandra and Reese Montgomery. And their relationship in terms of what we've read in the past, much like the other female characters in these novels, I just want what's best for them. I don't blame them necessarily because they are born. It's hard to read these in a modern context because of the times that they take place in, plus written in. These were written in pre-90s times, So as a modern woman, it's sad to read what our ancestors, our mothers, our grandmothers thought was normal and thought was healthy and thought was their lot in life. We will discuss those themes, I promise. So it would be easy for us to read these in a modern context and just hate everything about it. That's easy. What we're going to do is more nuanced in this, and we are going to allow ourselves to understand the times these were written in, much less the times that they took place in, okay? This took place in the 1700s, 1600s. If you can imagine, not the most feminist time. Now, Alejandra, you're going to learn, she doesn't know what she wants because she doesn't know who she is, and vice versa. She wants a role. She wants someone to go, you are this, and this is what you do in life. A lot of people do, and that's okay. Life is very, very difficult, especially back then. And sometimes you just wanted someone to tell you what to do and what your role was in the world and in society, and you were going to do it the best you could. And that was life, and that's totally fine. And that, I think, is Alejandra's crux in this, is that she desperately she doesn't know what or who she is. And so she's relying on all of the men in her life. That's another thing real quick. These books don't have a lot of female characters. They have maybe 2 or 3, and then the rest is nothing but guys. It's dads, it's brothers, it's brother-in-laws, it's boyfriends, it's ex-lovers. It's always dudes. These girls are surrounded by guys, and I can't help but feel like if y'all surrounded yourself with women, like we got to surround ourselves with girls, okay? Sisterhood. I just want to grab Alejandra and just be like, no, like, and that's crazy because literally, like, in the last novel, she was literally in a convent with sisters and she still got screwed over. So I don't know what I'm talking about, but I just feel in my little delusional head, we need more women around these women. Alejandra, I feel like she's definitely a product of her time, of a traditional Mexican conservative society. And she does the best she can with that. Reese Montgomery, okay? Let's just say him and Landis from our Golden Torments, they'd be thick as thieves. Yes. We have another super jealous, super violent male love interest. And he's a Texas boy. And I've dated Texas boys. Loved Texas, fell in love with a few. I'm just going to say they haven't really progressed much since then, because if you plopped him in modern Texas society, he would just click along just fine. He would be at a Texas Rangers game. He would be coaching Texas high school football. He would be watching reruns of King of the Hill. Like, he would be fine, which is a testament to Texas men in that they probably haven't really progressed since the 1600s. Not all Texas men. Some of y'all are great. So without further ado, because I'm just going to sit here and keep rambling about this damn story, and y'all are probably sitting there just like, get on with it. Also, real quick, I am trying to get this on Spotify as an audio podcast form. I'm not trying to turn this into a podcast. I'm just trying to get the audio on there because a lot of y'all said y'all listen to it driving and cleaning and doing other things. And I know YouTube is kind of weird to do that with the ads and stuff. So I am trying to get this on an audio format. It is a podcast on YouTube. I don't know what that means. And I don't know what that does, but it's there. So anyways, I'm trying to upload this on Spotify. I'll post if that is a success or not. But we'll see. Okay, let me get my notes out here. I have my leather-bound notebook here. I have my first note is, like Mad Men, miserable people live in a miserable time and having miserable lives. That is the theme. All right, so let us begin. Mexican Fire by Martha Hicks.
Pasaste a mi lado con gran indiferencia, tus ojos ni siquiera voltearon hacia mí.
We begin, and the story takes place mostly in Veracruz, Mexico in 1838. I don't know why I said the 16 and 1700s. This takes place in the 1800s. My bad, guys. We have Alejandra Toussaint Sierra. She is the mistress of one of the largest coffee plantations. She is 22. Yay, not a child bride. It's still pretty young, but at the time, grown. So yay, not a child bride. Woo, phew, phew. She is a widow. Her husband died in the Battle of the Alamo. So this is taking place recently after the Alamo. Now she is voguing in a plaza, just looking beautiful with her fan. And people are like, oh my goodness, Miss Doña Alejandra, how are you? And she is seen as very serious. And a lot of people make the comments that she needs to get laid. It's been probably several years since her husband passed away in the Alamo. And she is still in mourning, and everybody's just like, what is the deal, girl? Like, you are so young, so pretty. Get with it. And she sees a white man in Mexican army regalia, and he is helping a young native girl. Some guy pushed her down. He's helping her, being very nice, paternal to her. And of course, Danya is like, a paternal man? Ring-a-ding-ding. This is how she describes Reese. She notices his big boots. And there's a lot of commentary on his big feet and big boots in this book. And we've discussed before the fetishization. I cannot say that word. The kink of how big these men are. And that's in modern romance novels of like, they're so big. Oh my goodness, they're huge. These big, big men. Again, y'all are missing out on some amazing short kings if y'all do not even talk to a guy that is less than 6 feet. That is ridiculous. Anyways, quote, and they were big boots. Even though she had traveled extensively through Europe and the United States and had seen many towering men in both places, she was struck by the size of his hands and feet. Mexico was a land where men prided themselves on small bones. It was a sign of breeding. But Alejandra found this foreigner's big bones intriguing. Okay? I just felt like that was important to get kind of like the vibe. He is 30-ish. And hopefully not French, because at this time, Mexico is battling the French because the French are wanting to take over and turn Mexico into a French empire. Can you imagine? She also notices that he speaks not only Spanish, but this native girl's language. In case you weren't aware, Mexico is a very multicultural place. Much like our first novel with the Middle East and North Africa, there are many languages spoken in these countries. It's not just Spanish. And he happens to speak a little bit of this native girl's tongue, which is, again, very impressive for a white man of the time. Now, he recognizes her. She's like staring at him, just like, and he looks up and he's like, hey, Doña Alejandra. And she does not know him. And she's like, ew, don't talk to me. And she goes to meet her friend, Erasmo. Now, Erasmo is a Federalist. And at this time, I'm going to keep the history lessons brief here, because if you can imagine, I'm not a super expert on this. But Erasmo is a Federalist, and as is Alejandra. And what Federalists were at this time is they were against the dictator Santa Anna, who was the guy who failed at the Alamo. And he came back to Mexico, and he's trying to regain Mexican support to fight the French off. Very complicated at the time. Anyways, Erasmo and Alejandra are Federalists. They do not want Santa Anna to regain dictatorship of Mexico. There is an old man named Don Valentin, and he would like to see Alejandra, something very important. There's a little waiter at this coffee shop they are meeting at, because Erasmo owns a coffee shop, and there's a little waiter named Felix, and he makes this joke. He brings a tray of eclairs, and he's like, Doña Alejandra, would you like some eclairs? And she is just, oh my goodness, no, because they're French. We do not want any French shit in this place. And he laughs, and he brings up what is happening right now, the pastry wars. And real quick, and this is very broad, that war is very complicated and nuanced, so please don't get mad at me that I'm not doing it justice. I know I'm not. But the pastry wars are essentially the French versus the Mexicans over, again, the French had a bakery. Something happened at the bakery. I guess like some Mexicans were not paying or something. Just some bullshit happened. Racism, if you can imagine. And so France got pissed even more so than they were already and is now trying to force Mexico to pay for damages. And it's called the Pastry Wars because it began in a bakery. It's very complicated. And I just completely butchered it. Anyways, Felix makes the joke of, well, what did their big famous lady say that Maria Antoinette let them eat cake? And you're just like, Felix, stop it. Alejandra and her sister Mercedes, they went to Europe for school because they were kind of little wildcats growing up. They grew up very rich. Their mother is very rich. And their father is also pretty wealthy. But for her mother to marry her father was seen as a step down. Interesting. Anyways, Alejandra and Mercedes went to Europe for school. Alejandra loved it. It was freedom from her family. She loves Mexico. Her family stresses her out. They ask Alejandra to help stop Santa Anna from gaining power. And how they want her to do this is Reese Montgomery is Santa Anna's right-hand man. This white man from Texas is his right-hand man because they say Reese Montgomery can be paid. His loyalty lies in money. And they're like, so if you could flirt with him and get information from him, that'd be great. And she, of course, much like us, is like, oh, you want me to be like a whore for the country? Because every time a woman is propositioned with, can you help? It's always like, can you sleep with this guy? Again, it happened in Mad Men and in The Sopranos. Anyways, super frustrating. And they go, you don't have to sleep with him. You can just get closer to him than any of us can because he really likes you and thinks that you're really pretty. And then, of course, she's like, he says that I'm pretty? What? Focus, girl. And I'm going to make the statement that Santa Anna at this time is kind of seen as a Zap Brannigan kind of guy. Like, that's how everybody in this group is viewing him, is he is an absolute narcissistic idiot.
You see, killbots have a preset kill limit. Knowing their weakness, I sent wave after wave of my own men at them until they reached their limit and shut down. Kiff, show them the medal I won.
She says that she's too old to do this. She's 22, but she says she's too old to like be a flirty vixen type. That's for a younger girl, to which I'm like, how much younger? Reese, as we find out, he was an interpreter at the Alamo. That is why he knows a lot of languages. He has a knack for languages. He stole papers from Sam Houston and gave them to Santa Anna or something. Anyways, he's a trader in Texas and he's wanted according to these men. She is supposed to pay him money. Again, she's not going to be a sex worker for the country. She's going to pay him hard-earned money for him to work for the Federalists. She is not about it. It sounds really stressful and complicated. And she gets in her carriage. Erasmo jumps in her carriage and says, quote, "Can you dust your hands on Miguel's grave?" Miguel is her ex-husband who died in the Alamo. And that's a really fucked up thing for her friend to say. Of like, well, you're not really bringing honor to your husband's death if you're not going to help the man who got him killed. In order to honor her husband, she must flirt. It is her duty to flirt. Cut to Reese Montgomery is in his house. He has a little beach house. Very cute. And he has his manservant / best friend, Pepe. And with Pepe in conversation, we learn that Reese's brother, Garth Colby, has gone missing. And that's kind of all we learn at this moment. But Reese's brother being missing is like literally the whole plot point of this book. And we will get into that in a second. But remember that. Alejandra's carriage breaks down in front of Reese's house. How convenient. We learn that Reese spent 5 years in New Orleans. And I couldn't help but think, because this is right about the time of like La Lune Count. And I'm just picturing him in New Orleans, like getting a little shaven haircut outside. And he sees friggin' Desiree's crazy ass, like running barefoot through the streets and like half nun outfit. And he sees La Lucan going down the streets. And he's just like, this is too much. This is too much. I'm going to go to Mexico for a break. He calls Alejandra out immediately because Pepe looks at what broke on the carriage and he's like, I'm no expert, but this looks like it was cut. And Alejandra's like, well, what would you know? You just said you weren't an expert. And Reese cuts to the chase. I guess, you know, he's a Texas man and he ain't got time for this flowery running around bullshit. And so he's like, what the hell do you want? You're gorgeous. It's very evident that I would love to bed you, but what do you want? We learn that he is from St. Louis and he is called El Cazador, which is the hunter. And he is a very notable hunter back in America. And here is an exchange just to get the vibe. This is Alejandra just trying to be a lady. Are you making our fair city your permanent home? Reese listened to the absurd question. This woman was a novice at intrigue, and the person who sent her here ought to be horsewhipped. Irritated, Reese took the offensive again. Let's cut the mouth flapping, he said, glad they were conversing in English, where he could get to his exact meaning. What are you after? Her face tightened. There's no need to be rude. Granted, I can be rude. Hoping this tack would loosen her tongue, he continued, furthermore, I guarantee you I'm not the man to mince words. If that offends your sensibilities, sweetheart, let's say adios right now, and that will be that. I'm not offended, she replied quickly and nervously. So again, we are cutting, this is literally like page 40. Like the plot starts here and it doesn't stop. It is exhausting. He's kind of given Kurt Russell in Tombstone, you know, where he's like, skin that smoke wagon. Come on. You gonna stand there and bleed? Reese, again, is a very honest man. And he's interrogating her, but also they're flirting with each other. And they're very attracted to each other right off the bat. Like, since they saw each other in the plaza, he's like, I've been, you know, aware of you. I won't say he was stalking her. He wasn't stalking her, but he's been aware of her presence. She's a big prominent member in their community. Essentially, he's like, girl, I've been having a crush on you. Like, let's throw down. And this is her take on him. She's obviously kind of panicking because she's not super in control of this interrogation because this man is just like, I know you're trying to spy on me. Let's make out. And she's just like, oh no, this is not going as planned. It wasn't because he held her elbows, nor was it because his ice blue eyes were challenging the truth from her. As much as she hated to accept it, his nearness, along with the melded sense of soap and cigar and warm male, roused feminine responses she never knew existed. This man, this puzzling man, reminded her that she was a woman. And he was every bit a man. We learn more of the war that's going on. Prince Francois is Louis's son, and he wants to be Emperor of Mexico. But he's a spoiled brat, and everybody's like, okay, if Santa Anna wasn't already like enough of a narcissist to run a country, let's not have this guy. She makes a deal with him. He will spy on Santa Anna for her, but not for money. He says like, you'll want to be with me. And she's like, no, I won't. He's like, you will. And that'll be part of our deal. And he tries to kiss her and she's into it at first, but, and this will be recurring, she is haunted by the memory of her lost husband, Miguel. And she is tortured with that, of which I can't imagine. But if I was to try imagining moving on after losing a spouse, especially during this time when your husband was literally who you were, I can see why she is very tortured by this. Reese thinks that Alejandra is a spy for Santa Anna to see if Reese is loyal to him, which complicates things because Alejandra's like, no, I'm a Federalist. The Federalists want you. I'm telling you the truth. And he's like, no, you're too pretty. Santa Anna's trying to trick me. And she's like, no, like I'm telling you the truth. And she invites Reese to dinner. And Reese is like, I'll bring Santa Anna with me to dinner. And that is extremely dangerous because there's going to be a lot of Federalists at this dinner. And so he's literally putting Alejandra's life at risk because he's a fucking idiot and he doesn't trust her. I kind of think of Yzma in Emperor's New Groove where it's like, it's dinner time.
It's dinner dinner time.
Before we get to dinner time, it does cut to Reese in his home thinking about Alejandra, and he is so moved by her beauty that it alludes to him self-pleasuring himself, which is a first in one of these novels. I have yet to run across that until now. So if that was on your bingo cards, there you go. He starts to chat with Pepe, and what he does when he talks to Pepe is he only knows Spanish, and so Reese will switch to English when he needs to vent his feelings or any complicated matters, because he's like, oh, well, in English, Pepe can't understand me. And it's kind of funny because Pepe's kind of given like Martin Short's character in Only Murders in the Building, just very silly. And Reese is going over his feelings for Alejandra, his complications with Santa Ana, because he is a double agent. He works for the Texas government. He works for Sam Houston. Because, as we all know throughout history, the best way to keep tabs on your enemy is to have someone be their best friend. And so Reese is working for Sam Houston, staying as close to Santa Ana as possible. Very stressful. He has feelings for Alejandra. He's going over all of this. Meanwhile, Pepe is just sitting there like, she is very pretty. What is the snack situation during this? What is the drink situation? Are we doing like cocktails? Are we doing like a brown liqueur? I'm kind of thirsty. And so he's like, making him some snacks and a drink, just like, she is super pretty. That is crazy. What? Reese has been in Mexico working for Santa Ana for 2 years. It is a long, complicated political plot. His brother, Garth Colby, was arrested and sent to a Mexican prison. He doesn't know which one. Reese goes to Texas to try to figure out more information, and he gets involved in the Alamo, as one does. Goes then to Mexico to search for his brother, and Sam Houston is like, while you're there, be a double agent. And just as he is on a lull, like Santa Ana's kind of like in a lull in his trying to take over Mexico again, Alejandra shows up with her bullshit. He's like, God damn it, I was about to leave to go check all the Mexican prisons for my brother, and this girl shows up. This book is very quote unquote remember the Alamo. And now in the next chapter, we meet Mercedes, Mercy, and she is Alejandra's sister. The sisters catch up. Mercy is married to a surgeon. Her husband is a surgeon and a sugar plantation owner. So she's like very well to do. And I thought it was an interesting point that Mercy is a white, blue-eyed, blonde-haired Mexican woman, and she is the loud, flamboyant one, if you want to compare the sisters. Whereas Alejandra is the more stereotypical, traditional looking Mexican woman, and she is very quiet and reserved at this time. So I thought that was good for the author, maybe. I just thought it was interesting. Mercy hears the plot from Erasmo because Mercy and Erasmo are lovers. They were back when they were younger, which was unheard of because Mercy is a white, rich woman. Erasmo is a mixed coffee shop owner, but they are lovers. You get the gist that her kink may be sleeping with quote unquote dirty people. That's not my opinion, just the vibe of the book. And she heard from Erasmo that Alejandra is doing this spy thing. Mercy's like, you're going to put a lot of people in danger. And Alejandra's like, no, I'm not. It's fine. And Mercy brings up the good point of, what if you get caught? You own a coffee plantation. You're putting thousands of people out of work. Their families will be destitute. It's not just you, girl. You have tons of families that rely on you to live, to work and to live. Like it's not just you, Alejandra. You are responsible for a lot of other people. And Alejandra's like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. And I wanted to give their conversation, and this is Mercy. Dulce, why are you hosting a dinner for Erasmo de Guzman? Dulce, answer me. I don't know why I'm giving her a Charlotte LaBeouf accent. Sorry. Alejandra says, how is your dear husband? I haven't seen Joaquin in weeks. Mercy, have you had words with Joaquin? Is that why you're here? No. Dulcie, I'm here for your benefit, not for mine. I ask you, I beg of you not to associate with Erasmo. His reactionary ideas will come to nothing but disaster. I don't know what you have against him. You used to think quite highly of him, I recall. I have never thought highly of him. I hate him. He is worthy of nothing, a simple coffee peddler, unworthy even to speak with a daughter of our parents. Mercy, you do not hate him. I do. You don't. You don't know what you speak. Yes, I do. You don't hate him. You're right, Dulcie. I don't hate him. I don't hate Erasmo. Then don't be critical of him. In this case, I have a right. I don't appreciate what he's doing to you. Dulce, why are you loyal to him? I shouldn't have to remind you he and Miguel were best friends, or that they marched together in Texas. It was Erasmo who brought me the news of Miguel's death. He's the one who's held my hand since. He is the one I count on, and he's opened my eyes to a lot of things about this country. He is a saint in my eyes. Since he's so special, perhaps you already take him to your bed, huh? Or has he already been there? Of course not. No man has been with me but my husband. Arranged marriages can be boring, I should imagine. Mercedes Navarro, that is the most unkind of you. Our love was tender and sweet. That is thrilling in itself. You should find another man to love, my Dulce. Let him fill your heart with love and your womb with babies. But for now, stop this scheming against Santa Ana. And since when have you started seeing Erasmo again? When did I stop? But don't get the wrong impression. I don't slink around to be with him. He is the one making advances, none of which I have ever encouraged or acted on. Whether I see him is not the point, because my purpose is to stop your scheming with him. If I choose to plot against Santa Ana, that is my business. Would that we all could be so selfish. What do you mean by that? Have you stopped to realize what you're doing? What you could be sacrificing? Many families depend on the Sierra fortune and fortunes for their livelihood. What will happen to Campos de Palmas if you get in trouble with Santa Ana? What will happen to you? He'll remain where he belongs, a Mango de Clavo. I've nothing to fear. And if he doesn't stay put, I'll find a way to stay out of trouble. Erasmo is behind me. Oh my God, what could he do for you? Bring you a plate of frijoles to the dungeon? Hold your hand while the firing squad tamp their muskets? Don't lecture. There's no turning back for me. I would say that from Erasmo's telling me that a particular soldier of fortune may be influencing your thoughts, a certain Signoris Montgomery, yes? Am I right about Signor Montgomery? I find some of Miguel's sweetness in him. I'd like to believe he isn't as evil as he appears. Dulce, you amaze me. You charge headlong into Erasmo's cockeyed games, yet you stall at living life to the fullest. You need a man in your bed, sister dear. One would cure all that ails you. Why not let it be the Anglo who is too handsome and virile to be anything but worthless? What makes you think such a thing? Do you know him? I've heard tales. He is supposed to be pleasing in bed. Excuse me? Are my ears clogged? You would frustrate my good intentions with Erasmo. Yet you promote a liaison between me and an Anglo who is, quote, too handsome and virile to be anything but worthless, and pleasing in some areas. Surely, Mercy, you spoke without thinking. Surely, Dulce, you know me better than that. I don't do anything without thinking through the repercussions. I concede to your sterling character, big sister. I'd still like to know why you want a stranger in my bed. Because, as I said, you need a man, and he is one without compare, I have heard. Many women would die for the opportunity to caress his naked skin. His shortcomings outweigh the good, I guess. Shortcomings? Oh, my precious innocent, how dumb you are. Gossip in Veracruz says Senor Montgomery is anything but short. And so with that sisterly exchange, Santa Ana finally arrives with Reese to dinner. At this dinner, it is Alejandra, Reese, and Santa Ana. Mercy isn't there, as well as Erasmo and Don Valentin, the old man that got her involved in this in the first place. They are on their way to dinner, but Mercy is sent to stop them because it might not be such an awesome dinner party if you invite radical Federalists to a dinner with the very guy that they want to kill. Anyways, so they're at this dinner, and I can't help but imagine it's like super quiet and like awkward. And you hear like the silverware like clinking, you know, and it's just... While they're having the most awkward dinner, we cut to Mercy stopping the carriage that Erasmo and Don Valentin are in, and we learn their story. And their story is Erasmo has always loved her, and Mercy gave him a hard time, but because she was curious, I guess, and this is his words, he's like, oh, this little white lady was curious as to what, you know, my Indian piece would give her, you know. And again, this is his words, author's words, if you will, not mine, but he says that Mercy likes a more earthy man and was curious as to what sleeping with a native was like. He put it to her. They became lovers. It gives a scene of her back in the day giving him a blowjob, which that's new. You don't see a lot of blowjobs in these novels. Mark that off on your bingo cards. Erasmo wanted to marry Mercy, but because he was a poor coffee shop owner and she was a higher station, she was like, that's not gonna happen. And he was like, I will come back from the army and we will be wed. He goes to fight in the Alamo. He is captured, turned towards slavery. He is beaten by Texans left and right. He is whipped. He is covered in scars on his back. It was a very harrowing journey for him to get back to Mexico. And when he comes back, she is married. And he's like, what the fuck? She shows up again to the carriage to stop them. There are whispers between her and Erasmo with the quote, your aristocratic legs will be wrapped around the scarred back of a peasant. And that kind of stuck out for me. So Erasmo and Mercy are having their own awkward dinner, if you will. We cut back to dinner, and I thought this description of what Alejandra is wearing and looks like was really beautiful. A gardenia as delicate as her complexion was fashioned into her bun. A diamond necklace sprinkled with emeralds and rubies as vibrant as the Mexican flag rested on the swell of her breasts. Fingerless gloves accented her graceful arms and hands. She would, of course, have been stunning in a flower sack, but she wore a low-cut gown of taffeta and lace, its green hue emphasizing the highlights in her eyes. So she sounds beautiful in that outfit. Reese, of course, thinks that Alejandra is here to test him for Santa Ana. And so he thinks he's being like a good traitor. And he points out the empty chair. And he's like, oh, was someone else coming to dinner? Was someone else supposed to be here? And they're not. And she says, yes, my sister was, but she is sick with womanly stuff. Santa Ana points out Alejandra's uneasy attitude in a familiar way, as if he knows her. He's like, Doña Alejandra, why are you so worked up this dinner? I'm here, girl. Reese continues to probe, and Alejandra is getting very cagey because she's very nervous because she could die. Santa Ana could order her to be executed if she is found out to be a Federalist. And Reese's dumb self doesn't understand that. And he's just like, oh, this is all about me. This is all about me and my test. I'll be a good boy and, you know, show how clever I am. And it's like, you're not fucking helping. But Alejandra does have this moment because he recalls Santa Ana and Doña Alejandra meeting at church. Because remember, she said she didn't know Santa Ana. And Reese is like, oh, you do. Y'all go to the same church. How astute of you to recall such a brief meeting, Senor Montgomery. But you have me at a disadvantage. I didn't realize you were spying. Oh my goodness, what a poor choice of words. Pardon me, I wasn't aware of your presence that morning. So she's kind of doubling back on him and she's like, all right, you gonna put me in a cage and shake it up? I'll do the same to you. We're both spying on Santa Ana. If you're gonna out me, I'll out you. Let's make this and the whole time Santa Ana's just sitting there like sipping soup, just like, this is great. compliments to the chef. This is great. And he's not understanding like the verbal war that is happening. He's just like, are y'all flirting with each other? Are y'all like having a little lover spat? And Reese, as Alejandra, he keeps referring to her as a caged animal, and he is the hunter. But he fails to realize that a caged animal will make desperate attempts to live. And Alejandra does so and completely is like, Reese is a spy. And Reese is like, what? He jumps out of the chair, calls her a witch, freaks out because, again, you gonna play with fire, get ready to get burned. Don't sit there and fuck with me at this dinner. Don't fuck with me at this dinner. You're gonna come into my house and sit there and be like, Santa Ana. I know you know him. And all this bullshit. And she's just like, all right. Okay. This confused me, and maybe y'all can enlighten me. I read this so many times, read this out loud. She wanted nothing to do with this betrayer of promises, yet he smelled of wood and leather and faintly of wine, and mostly of warm, clean man. All the danger and forbidden excitement did something quite strange to Alejandra. She was drunk with desire, with passions she never thought possible. Fight it, she told herself. Fight him. If only he would unhand her, maybe then she could gather her wits. She couldn't, not with the silk of his shirt and the steel behind it plastered against her bosom. So is he up on her? Anyways. And not with his huge hands splayed across her derriere to press her into his thighs, and certainly not with his sensuous lips half parted as if to beckon a kiss. A kiss wasn't what he wanted. I'm asking. He got up from his chair, grabbed her by the shoulder, and is pressing his area into her thighs. What is happening? Rewind that and let me know. Because it says, not with his silk of his shirt and the steel behind it plastered against her bosom. Okay, so he's like real close. And not with his huge hands splayed across her derriere to press her to his thighs. Is Santa Ana just sitting there like, I'll have what he's having? Anyways, he goes on to say, now tell General Santa Ana you lied. I did not. You did. Santa Ana shoved one hand in his pocket, ew, and threw the other wide. Stop this, you lovers embarrassed me. We're being scandalous, Reese said, grinning down at her. And that's exactly what all this is, a lover's row. He glanced a mustachioed kiss off her cheek. You see, Antonio, I didn't take her seriously when she'd promised I'd regret it if I didn't arrive here with a proposal of marriage. And at this moment in time, I am cussing out loud at, I swear to God, if these women get railroaded with marriage in these novels. These women are absolutely hit upside the head with marriage in these novels. And I was like, I swear to God, if this happens again, what the fuck? Don't worry. Luckily, it doesn't happen. As you can imagine, dinner is kind of ruined. And it's funny because she's like super stressed out. And there's a mariachi band playing. And it's, again, very like Tombstone of like, can someone shut that damn dog up? She's just like, can you stop playing for like 5 seconds? Like there's a fight happening and the band's still playing. And she's like, hey, chill. Read the room. Go take a break. Go take 5. So they leave without dessert. She goes and finds Mercy. Mercy is leaving the barn, pulling straw out of her hair. One can imagine her and Erasmo's reunion was fun. And Alejandra's like, where's Erasmo? And Mercy says he has gone to go shoot Reese Montgomery in between the eyes. And Alejandra's like, oh shit. And she jumps on her horse bareback with a knife in between her teeth and sets out to Reese Montgomery's house. And I'm like, that's a badass scene. You know, she's in her emeralds and her gown and she just jumps on this horse bareback and puts a Bowie knife between her teeth and is like, God damn it, I have to do everything. A woman's work is never done. Cut to Reese is on the beach. He's a late night beach walker thinker. That's where he goes to think. It's on the beach. He's walking around, reeling that dinner over in his mind. Erasmo shows up. And Reese is like, ooh, are you like one of the husbands of the girls that I fool around with? Let's talk this out, man. Erasmo's like, no. They scuffle. They fight. Reese is down on the ground. Erasmo has the gun cocked, about to shoot him. Alejandra shows up. Pocahontas Disney move, jumps in front of Reese, gets shot. And it's funny in hindsight. She gets shot. Erasmo's like, why did you jump in front of a gun to save him? And Reese is like, why did you jump in front of a gun to save me? These men are freaking out. So Erasmo did shoot her, and they're arguing over who gets to stay with Alejandra and who has to go get the doctor, Joaquin, her brother-in-law. And they're fighting, being men. Like, no, I'll stay with her. No, I'll stay with her. I'm her best friend. No, well, I'm her, like, she likes me. I have a crush on her. And Erasmo's like, I'm not leaving her with a goddamn white guy. And, Reese is like, well, you literally just shot her, so I'm not leaving her with you. Meanwhile, Alejandra's on the beach just like, guys, I'm bleeding out. Can someone please go get the doctor? And Erasmo, she's like, go get Joaquin. You know where he is. You know where he lives. Go get him, please. Kind of bleeding out here. Might be a little emergency. We do meet Alejandra's horse, Moscada. And that is, I'm like 89% sure that means nutmeg in Spanish. I should have looked it up. I don't look up crap before these novels. I don't look up much while reading these novels because I want these videos to be a conversation that we are having, like me and you are face to face and we're like sharing the story. I don't want it to be a lecture to you guys. So pretty sure it means nutmeg though, which is adorable. Cut to Joaquin's chapter. And this was a doozy of a doozy. Joaquin is a surgeon and he is very angry at his lovely wife, Mercy. They have a rough relationship. He married her for money. She married him because he was of the same class as her. And they don't super like each other. If you can imagine a marriage based on appearances and class systems aren't filled with love. And they fight because they have yet to conceive a child. That is very important at this time for a couple. You must have a child. She says it's his fault. He says it's her fault. It's kind of her fault. She is the one who is barren because we learn that one of the native servants at their house is pregnant with his child. Yay. She shows up as he is punching a portrait of Mercy. He breaks his hand and her name is Josie Montana. And Josie is like, don't do that. You're a surgeon. Probably shouldn't be breaking your hands. That's kind of your moneymaker. And she goes and sits at his desk with her big belly. And he's like, it's fine. It's fine. And he is very conflicted with how he feels about the mother of his child. Because he loves Josie, but he's also disgusted at himself. And this is going to be messed up for me to say, but at the time, I think he views it as, when you watch porn that you would never watch in your life because you're into it at the time. And then when you're done, you reflect on what you just watched and you're like, I'm a fucking monster. I'm disgusting. I think that's his feelings because although he loves Josie and obviously desires her, evidence is right there, he is disgusted with himself for loving a peasant. Again, him and Mercy are a lot alike in more ways than they think, with their weird racism kinks. But anyways, he spouts off verbal abuse at her, calls her dirty, calls her ugly, just disgusting. She's heard it before. She understands his temper tantrums and she's like, yeah, you hate me. Obviously, points at belly. But he pushes her away because she tries to come up and console him. She tries to rub his shoulders like, all right. I know I'm a dirty Indian. Gross. Anyways, so what do you want to name our son? And he is disgusted because Mercy hasn't shown up home, so he's worried about her. He's trying to control the women in his life. He pushes her pregnant belly aggressively. You don't touch a woman's pregnant belly. You don't touch a woman ever without consent, especially if she is carrying a child. And she, rightfully so, turns into a goddamn Hellcat on him. She's like, oh no, no. You can sit there and verbally abuse me. Sure. I'll allow it. I'll allow that. But you are not about to push. You are not about to push me while pregnant. She comes after him. She's like, I'm about to fuck you up. And he grabs a candlestick and he's like, whoa. Hosey, let's talk. And she's like, And she grabs the candlestick from him. Keep in mind, she's a little Native woman. And this is a grown man. She grabs that candlestick, busts it on his little cranium, cracks his skull. He flips over his big mighty chair that she was sitting in, cracks his neck, and he's dead. She has murdered him. So that's going to be a problem. It was a very intense 4 pages. Cut to back at Reese's beach house. It kind of reminds me of like Ken's beach house. His job is beach. But yeah, he's at his little Reese's beach house. Alejandra is in Reese's bed. The bullet grazed her on her arm. Don't worry, guys. She'll live. Reese is, I'm going to be honest, crazy hard as she is sleeping in his bed. And he really wants to touch her, but he does not. Don't worry. But he's just like, ooh, what if I just like spoon her? That's not that bad, right? I'll just spoon her. And that's not creepy at all. She obviously wakes up because this like grown man is pressing his boner against her sleeping body. And she wakes up and she's like, what are you doing? And they fight, obviously. Again, he is telling her how she feels, and that enrages me. Because although he is correct in that she does desire him and they are super attracted to each other, let her come to that conclusion on her own, sir. Don't tell her, like, you're attracted to me, you want me, let's just go ahead and cut to the chase. She's like, I'm kind of bleeding out for one thing. You're not a priority at this moment in time. He gives her her knife, climbs on top of her, is like, if you want to kill me so bad, right here, cut that jugular right there. Come on, baby girl. You want to kill me so bad? Do it right there. And of course she can't. Who could, like, He's very frustrating. And so she says, she drops the knife. She's like, may the devil take you, Reese. And Reese is like, he probably will. And they kiss. He forces a kiss on her. She accepts it. So it's not like super sexual harassment, but it's just like in a modern context, you're like, ew, please don't do that. Again, this book was written not only at a time, like of a time, but as it was written in the 80s, this was seen as like charming to some people, not like everybody. But how many older movies do we watch where the guys are so forceful on these girls and they're like, kiss me, Rebecca. And they're like, no, I won't. And they kiss and it's passionate. She's like, I love you. And he's like, I've always known it. Like, ew. But that was the time. Women weren't supposed to be sexual until like what? 2010? We weren't supposed to ever enjoy sex ever. And if we did, we were whores. That is still the narrative in so many countries. I watch a lot of K-dramas and anime. Still the narrative in a lot of countries. Anyways, they kiss. She has never felt, she's only been with Miguel. And Miguel was a sweetheart and she loved him. But I just don't think they had a lot of passion in their relationship because as she kisses Reese, she's like amazed at how she feels. And she thinks that sex is a time for a woman to go over guest lists, you know, to think about like grocery lists. It's a time for a woman to just disassociate. And you're like, oh, poor baby. No. And Reese kind of realizes that too. And he's like, so you've never enjoyed sex or anything? And Alejandra's like, well, that's kind of for girls like Mercy, like fast women. I'm a respectable woman. I just sit there and have intercourse. And Reese, of course, says, oh, poor girl, poor baby. Oh. They do get hot and heavy, but Alejandra snaps out of it. And she realizes he put a hibiscus in her hair. And she takes it out and immediately crumples it and throws it away. And we get this tender reflection of Reese where he puts on this really big bravado frat boy energy. Nothing can hurt me. I'm such a ladies' man. Don Juan kind of vibe. But her crumpling this flower really hurt his like little boy heart because it was a very tender romantic gesture he thought she would really like. And it was him being like really tender and sweet, like, I'm gonna put a little flower in her hair and she's gonna really like that. And she just like flings it and crumples it, and it really hurts his feelings. And and he realizes that a woman is finally getting to him, because so far he's been clicking along life just using and abusing women and just being a little panty chaser. And he finally has a woman that can get to him emotionally. He earnestly apologizes to her for the dinner, for everything that has happened so far. He earnestly apologizes and says, I am truly sorry. And she, again, a woman of the time, she thinks because this man has apologized to her, that must have taken such work for his pride. And that must have been so hard. Bless his heart. Poor Reese. Poor Reese Montgomery. He had to apologize. He had to apologize, y'all, for nearly getting her killed. Anyways, so if you can imagine, they make love. But she is, of course, very chaste and naive to the whole thing. She's very chaste, and she recalls Miguel, and their sexual relationship was very tender for sure, but he wasn't necessarily doing what Reese is doing. And so it's almost as if she is a virgin. She's never done it. Like, she's never had a guy fondle her breasts or her other area with his fingers or kiss her in other areas. It's been very, very chaste, very like religiously modest sexual intercourse for her. She also brings up in her head that her and Miguel lost a child before he left for the Alamo. It was a miscarriage, and it's still, if she mourns Miguel, I think she mourns the loss of their child more. And so in my opinion, I kind of think that her mourning process has been so long and so deep for not only the loss of her husband, but the loss of the family that she was supposed to have. She's kind of like mourning, and she realizes she does not want to be alone. Being alone is tragic for her. And so she allows and consents to this real big sex scene. It takes pages, and it is elaborate, and she is no longer chaste and naive. An owl shows up on the balcony, and in this time and culture, an owl is a death omen, and she freaks out, and she's like, oh my God, someone's gonna die. There's an owl. Oh boy. And at the same time, Reese's French cousin shows up, and he's important. Reese goes outside to talk to his French cousin. Alejandra, he goes away from Alejandra because the French are again invading Mexico. So to be seen with a French guy is seen as very bad, very bad. And so you're kind of wondering who is Reese playing for, because he's working for Sam Houston. He's technically working for Santa Ana in Mexico, but then he's also has a French cousin who obviously is part of the French Navy. And you're like, what is happening? How deep does this Reese Montgomery espionage go? Who exactly is he spying on and for? And as he finishes up speaking in French, like with his French cousin, he looks up and he says Alejandra looking down at him. And they both have this thing. He's like, fuck, she just saw me with my French cousin speaking French. And she's looking down at him, and she's like, I know French. And he says, "Why are you outside, my dear?" And she says, "I had to shoo away the death omen, the owl, and I overheard you two conversating." She then declares him an enemy of Mexico and therefore an enemy of Alejandra. Her country comes first. Cut to Joaquin's funeral. Mercedes is mourning her husband. She is sad. She is sad that her husband was murdered. She reflects their real fucked up relationship and marriage. And she thinks Erasmo did it because Erasmo was standing over the dead body with the candlestick. And Josie said, "He did it." And Erasmo's like, "I just showed up because Alejandra got shot and I just saw his dead body in this candlestick. Like, he's truly like just showed up at the real worst time." They are all at home. It is Mercy. It is Alejandra. It is their dada and their mama. They are discussing the war. Now, we understand that Alejandra and Mercy's daddy is French. So they are half French. He is upset that they only care for Mexico. And he's like, "Y'all are half French. You know, y'all should have some loyalties towards my homeland too." And the girls are just like, "We were born here. We are Mexican women." So he says he will return to France. His country comes before his family. And you're like, okay. And the girls are very upset. Like, and of course their mom is just like all the women are like, "What? You're giving up your family to go sit on the French Navy ship? What?" And he's like, "Yeah, my homeland comes first." Mercedes thinks Alejandra is mad at her for sleeping with Erasmo. Alejandra's like, "The world does not revolve around you, Mercy. I don't care. That is not the biggest priority I have at this moment in time. I found out that Reese is an agent for the French." And Mercy is like, "Oh my God, crazy. So you're not mad at me for sleeping with Erasmo?" And Alejandra's like, "Look, I got to go to the prison and make sure Erasmo's okay. He is my best friend." Mercy says, "He murdered my husband. Why would you do that?" And Alejandra says, "You really think he murdered Joaquin? Why would he murder Joaquin? Like, no, he's not that stupid." And Mercy is again struggling because she does love Erasmo passionately. And then she loves Joaquin legally. She has her duties. She's in a weird spot. And she's like, "Okay, go to him, make sure he's okay. We'll figure this out. I just have a feeling you're doing more than what you say." And Alejandra says, "You know me very well." And they kind of agree that Alejandra is bent on revenge on Reese. She is going to get him killed on purpose. Cut to Reese is in a French naval ship and he is talking to Prince Francois. He's talking to a General Baudin. A lot of political crap. France needs to win for his brother to be released from Mexican prison, but he wants Mexico to win for Alejandra. And he has this moment where he's like, "I'm really torn, but the idea of Alejandra and the eagle holding the serpent rising above the fleur-de-lis is what I want." And it's kind of crazy because Alejandra and her family choose country over their loved ones. And then Reese chooses his loved ones over his country constantly. So very different vibes. Doesn't work out for either party. So I don't think either one is really what you should do. Santa Anna evades the French naked. So what he does is he dresses as a peasant and they go and infiltrate the supposedly brothel or hotel that he was at. And they run into him and he's like this naked, like dirty peasant. And they're just like, "Ew, it's not him, obviously." And they're racist. So they think like, I guess every Mexican looks the same. I don't know. But they're just like, "That's not him. It couldn't be him." And they go and arrest one of his generals that is in there because they think that's him. And the general's like, "No, that's your guy." The naked guy running down the street. And the French are just like, "Sacre bleu." And Santa Anna is running down the street naked. He talks to this hag woman. It's real weird. Antonio barges in and in his office or wherever, and Reese is in there, real chill, real relaxed, and Antonio Santa Anna is like, where is our French prisoner? Reese's cousin, Latouche. And Reese is like, oh, oops, I think he got out. Oopsie poopsie. Darn it. And Santa Anna is just like, oh, you let him, that's really inconvenient, man. And Reese says, I know. I'm so angry. And they're approaching a battle that's about to happen. And Pepe is next to Reese, and he makes this wise thing of his wrists crossed over the saddle horn. He shook his head and spoke to his sickened employer. All of this for the want of less than 1 million pesos. Why doesn't the government pay off the French so we can get on with business of living? Good question, Pepe. What is the price of life, senor? Not waiting for a reply, Pepe commented, war. It is crazy. Very wise, Pepe. War is crazy. As this battle is happening, Reese is like, French against Mexicans, like there's cannons, there's gunfire, crazy. And across the plaza, he sees Alejandra's dumbass. And he's like, what the frick is she doing here? And he charges her. They fist fight. They get in a fist fight. She starts punching him because she is trying to get to Don Valentin across the way to make sure he's safe. I don't know. She's trying to get this old man, make sure he's safe. And Reese reminds her that there is literally a battle going around her pretty little head. And they fist fight, and it's kind of gross because Reese holds her wrists together, and it doesn't say verbatim, but I'm getting the sense he's kind of dry humping her. There's a battle going on. Okay. And he's still very we could do it right here. We could have a quickie. Obviously, Alejandra is just, what? She finally talks him into letting her up because Santa Ana shows up and he's like, Reese, not the time. I get it. She's very pretty. I commend you, but not the time. I really need you to help me shoot French people. And Reese says, give me 5. Give me 5 minutes. And I'm just like, what is happening? These men are literally like, okay, go rape her for 5 minutes, but come back because we got to go murder people for a war. What a time. They fight, and Alejandra, of course, still hates him because she's like, you're working for the French. You're working for Santa Ana. I could not hate you more. You work for everything I hate. I don't care how much you press your boner against my thigh. I don't like you, sir. And she has this to say. He tells her, I think I'm falling in love with you, Alejandra. At first, those softly yet adamantly spoken words drifted over her like a salve on an old wound. Love, it was such a beautiful state of being, but Reese was confusing lust with a deeper emotion. True love meant faith and mutual respect, among 1,000 other admirable qualities. He had promised to help her cause. He didn't. He had said he wouldn't bring Santa Ana to her home, and he had. While there, he had imperiled the Federalist cause by casting doubt on her character. Yes, he had apologized, but still, she doubted he was loyal to anyone or anything. Never could she love a man without honor. Yet, she was no paragon. His touch had reminded Alejandra that she was just as weak and just as lust-filled. He offered his hand. If you want to cross the plaza, sweetheart, I'll help you. She nodded. He swept her into his arms, hunching his shoulders, putting his back to the line of fire. He rushed across to the end. Safely there, he asked, do you think you could ever fall in love with me? Her heart tugged at her chest. She didn't know what to think or feel, or how to react. Fight for my country, Reese. Her voice lost its brittle edge, yet finality and goodbye honed each word. I thought that was really beautiful. Because she's like, just please help me help my country. I don't care. Just help me. Santa Ana is shot during this battle. And Reese is like, fudge. There goes my chances of trying to get my brother. All of my work 2 years being this man's best friend. It's down the drain. He is shot. As Santa Ana lays in a cot dying, Reese reflects on his bond with him. And although he hates this man and is his sworn enemy, once you spend 2 years with somebody being their confidant, their literal right-hand man, you do have a weird respect, a weird Stockholm bond, I will say. So he does feel kind of bad that Santa Ana is dying. But he doesn't die. We all know that because we know history. He does not die. His leg has to get cut off, and he wants to put it on display so that people can pray to it. Okay. I wonder why he wasn't popular for a long time. It cuts to 2 weeks later. The sisters are at home. Dad rowed out to the French ship. Mom yelled at him while on the beach. I'm sure that was a scene of he's just rowing to the ship, just like, no, I must be with my French people. And she's like, I swear to God, if you don't row your ass back over to this beach, oh, Pierre, I'm going to bust your ass. Alejandra hears some mariachi music from her balcony, and she looks down, and Reese is below there with a whole band holding a huge bouquet of flowers, singing with them a little love song. It's more than what Chance gave Desiree in our last book, but it is still that god dang Barbie moment of please stop serenading women on balconies. She sees it as very scandalous because she's like, people can hear you. People can see you. I'm a widow. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up. She's moved, but she's just like, people will see us together. She rebuffs him, says, nope, you will not woo me. And Mercy is like, well, I'll go with him because he's asking her, he's asking her to a local dance. Cute. And Mercy's like, well, I'll go with him to the dance. And Alejandra's just like, you're in mourning. We're both in mourning. We're both widows. And Mercy's just like, well, yeah, you take it way too seriously. Like, Mercy is very Scarlet in Gone with the Wind. You know, she would totally wear red to Joaquin's funeral looking for a date. Mercy's very opposite of Alejandra. She's like, I want to have fun. I'm so bored. Morning's boring. I'm going to go to this dance with the guy that you like. So they go. Her and Reese. Reese is like, all right, come on. Come on, girl. Let's go. And Alejandra's watching their carriage leave, and she's just like, God damn it, I got to go to this dance. She goes to the dance. She figures out it was a trick. Mercy and Reese tricked her. He is a hunter after all, and he knows how to get a animal out of its nest. And she's like, where's Mercy? And he's like, she went off with Erasmo. We know what they do. And they do talk at this dance. They have a talk outside in the garden. And this is what is said. And I won't read like everything. I'll just read the conversation. Please enjoy my one-woman show. Handra, I'm going to tell you something. Several things. And I hope I can trust you. I do spy for the French. May the saints protect us. Let's pray they do. You see, Handra, my darling, that stippling I captured was a plant to divert Antonio from the expeditionary forces. The sailor is a distant cousin of mine from Cayenne, Jacques Latouche. Is that supposed to make me feel better, knowing you hail from the shores of Normandy, or that you have schemed against my beloved country? I may be in cahoots with Charles Boudin, but I'm no more French than you are. I'm as American as apple pie. I have a hard time comparing you with apple pie. And they chuckle. I like when you laugh. You've accepted the rank of army colonel. My people are depending on you to protect them from the French. As a spy for Admiral Baudin, you are doing Santa Ana false. He who saved you from a death sentence over your treason with the Texas government. What does that say about your principles? I didn't realize you become Antonio's admirer. I find nothing to like about Santa Ana. My words have to do with decoro nacional. Right or wrong, he fights for Mexico. Of course he seeks glory of Santa Ana alone. I don't understand why you hate him so. Everything I said at Casa Montgomery was true. I believe Santa Ana is evil. Maybe I'm evil too, But it's a damn shame you didn't let General Houston kill him when he had the chance. What do you really want, Alejandra? I want to bring honor to my husband. Honor? I thought he died in battle. There's nothing more honorable than giving your life for your country. If only the cause had been. No matter that, you know how I feel about Sandinistas causes. What I'm trying to say is honoring Miguel's memory will give me peace of mind. I never want another person to die for the glory of Santa Ana. I'm your Alejandra. Now that your Federalist friends have captured Tampico and Matamoros and... Repeat that? You didn't know about the Federalist movement in northern Mexico? I had no idea about any insurrections up there. The newspaper said nothing. You see, with Rasmo in prison and Don Valentin too ill to make contacts for me, I guess I've been in the dark about recent events. Who is this Don Valentin you speak of? The gentleman I sought at the Maison the day the French assaulted us. Reese reflects on Don Valentin. He's a very high Federalist agent, and Reese thinks that it's very dangerous for Alejandra to be in cahoots with him, but he digresses. You know, Handra, you and I can make a pretty good team if we stopped fighting each other and worked together. I've had experience with your assistance, thank you very much. Would it be a comfort to know the Federalists to the north are friendly with Admiral Baudin? He's allowing them to free trade with the outside world, you see, which will line the war chest for you and your amigos. Comforted? No, I'm not. I don't know who to trust anymore now that my compatriots have gone over to the French side. Baudin does not want to conquer Mexico. So you say. I do. And the Northern Federalists are confident in his integrity. But there's something you should consider. Prince Francois has his eye on the empire here. Excuse me? The French who botched the attack on Veracruz hopes for the crown? Well, he is set back a bit, since the powers in the capital haven't conceded to the French. But Francois has the ear of some high potentates, countrymen of yours who'd toss him reins if they could get proper military support. Antonio owes all those clerics many favors. This is true? All, you say? True enough to get me shot if it were to link to the wrong person. What do you propose we do as a team? I say we forget about Antonio and Baudin and the little prince and everything and everyone besides ourselves. I say, Miss Sierra, that we should rejoin the dance and enjoy the remainder of this glorious, beautiful evening. That seems rather frivolous. That's what makes life worth living. Miss Sierra, will you allow me to court you? Now, I included that because it was a very complicated scene that I did not know how to summarize without just literally saying what they said. So in summary, they make a team. He asks to formally court her. He says that the French and the Federalists are working together. The French don't necessarily want to conquer Mexico. Like, Baudin does not want to conquer Mexico. He just wants his payment for the pastry wars. If they pay him that 1,000,000 pesos, he would gladly head home. But Prince Francois wants to be the Emperor of Mexico. And so it's very complicated because you have Prince Francois and Santa Ana and no one really wants them in charge. You know, so they're kind of like, ooh, how do we get out of this? She gets drunk at the dance. And she becomes the predator, if you will, and tries to get on him and paws him and rubs her lady boner on him. And he is the one fighting her off. Both of these people do not know what consent is. But, of course, much like her, he succumbs. And they have a good old time in that carriage. They have an awkward morning the next day with the staff because Alejandra was raised in a classist system. And so she talks to her servants, not badly, but definitely not as if they were humans. She just sees them as different. And Reese is kind of gathering this as like breakfast is happening, the way she's kind of handling her servants. And he's a frontiersman. He grew up very poor in Minnesota or St. Louis, Missouri. And he does not like when rich people talk down to poor people, because was a poor person. And he just understands what it feels like. And he's not super cool with Alejandra's servants. And it's just real awkward. He's just like, is that how you handle your servants? And she's like, yeah, I'm the head of this household. That's how it's happened. And he's like, ew. Anyways, not the best Alejandra moment. She does, like, that's not a super good quality of her. She is very classist. They have a coffee talk, if you will. They go to the coffee area of the plantation. She shows them how the plantation works. They go walk around, and they're flirting like teens. They're having a good time. She's, for once, super in love, and just feeling that passion. Jose Montana shows up, and she brings her baby. Her baby is named Joaquin, after his father, but they nickname him Chico. And Reese reflects on, he looks at Alejandra, and she is absolutely smitten with this baby. Like, she wants to take it. But she's just absolutely smitten with this baby. And he reflects on the loss of her and Miguel's child, how she deserves children. She could be carrying his children. Just, what does he want? Does he want to save his brother? Does he want to have Alejandra as a wife and mother to his, future family? What does he want? It's very complicated. Jose passes out. She just falls. Bloop. When Jose wakes up, she tells the truth that she murdered Joaquin, and it was in self-defense. And she will go, she struggles with what to do, because she's not in a real privileged place of having a lot of options. Alejandra takes care of the baby while Jose goes to admit the truth, but say it was in self-defense, which back then, I guess they just kind of took everybody's word for it. Kind of crazy. There is Christmas chaos with Don Valentin, Mercy, the baby, Jose. A lot is going on because Alejandra is trying to get Christmas baskets out to her servants and the people who work at her plantation. She's trying to get Christmas gifts to the children. And Don Valentin is trying to leave to go do Federalist stuff. And she's like, you are way too old and sick. Please stay. And then Mercy's just chattering away about how could you keep her baby? That's the woman who murdered my husband. That's his bastard child. And Alejandra is just kind of freaking out. She's having a moment. And luckily, Reese takes charge. He sees her struggling and he's just like, all right, we're going to play house. We're going to play house. You will go back to bed, Don Valentin. Mercy, shut the fuck up about this goddamn baby. It's a baby. What do you want us to do? Throw the baby out? And she's like, no. And he's like, you need to go to your room. You need to go to your room. I will take the Christmas baskets out to the servants. And Alejandra, you need to go to your room. He's kind of just like, I'm so tired of all this rich people. And after that, he leaves. He's tired. He tells Alejandra, I'm tired of playing house with you. I have to get my brother out of prison. It is Christmas. And he's so stressed out because he was having a good time. He was playing house with Alejandra for a few days and getting lost in that role as head of the plantation and her husband. And then he reflects on oh my God, my brother's in a Mexican prison somewhere. I am sitting here listening to this rich lady yell at her servants and fuss over guest lists and decor. My brother is being tortured in a Mexican prison. Get it together, Reese. Get it together. So he leaves. He's very upset. Mercy and Alejandra work it out with baby Chico. Alejandra's he is a baby. You can't be mad at a baby. And so Mercy takes care of Chico while Alejandra goes to find Reese so that she can apologize to him because it's Christmas. She goes to find Reese and she finds him at a saloon. And she's outside the saloon because a respectable woman could not enter a saloon. And so she's outside psst, psst, Reese. And he and Pepe are just laughing and talking about Pepe's oh, I've got a cousin. She's so hot. You would love her. And Reese is oh, introduce me to her, boy. I would love to spend Christmas with her. Obviously antagonizing Alejandra. She finally comes in because she's I'm about to wring this little white man by his neck. He also apologizes with a puppy, which is the worst thing to do. And it just, it drives me crazy because so many men think that a puppy or an animal can replace a child for a woman. Like, oh, we can't have a child. Let me get you a puppy. Not the same. Not the same. Your fur babies do not replace children. Not the same. Anyways, and he hands her a little white poodle. And she, of course, says, this is French. Don't want it. And the bartender, he has this amazing moment where he's like, oh, well, I mean, it's a French poodle, but it was born in a Mexican, like behind my bar. So it's a Mexican dog. It's born on Mexican soil. I've been feeding it chilies since it was born to get rid of the worms, which I didn't know was a thing. Apparently it is. My husband said that his dad told him about that trick or something, but it is like people used to feed them chilies to get rid of the worms. I don't recommend that with current modern medicine. There's literally wormers at Walmart, but I guess back in the day. Anyways, this poor dog. Poor dog been fed chilies since it was born. Pepe does not speak English, but he hears the word Chico and he's like, who's Chico? And so he asks about the baby. Alejandra's, of course, torn up. She doesn't want I don't want the poodle. I want a baby. I don't want a puppy. I want Chico. And she's getting very attached to Chico. And Pepe's like, I don't think his mom's going to let you keep him. You might want to take the puppy. And she's like, I don't want the puppy. I want the baby. They have a great Christmas. They have a Christmas dinner. Reese invites, he only has like 2 servants. He has a cook and Pepe, and he lets them eat with him at the table, which is unheard of at this time. He's like, no, it's Christmas. I'm not going to like let my cook and my best friend, even though he's my butler, like go eat. So I would eat alone. And Alejandra is very shocked by this. She's like, you let your help eat with you? Wild. We cut to Garth Colby in prison. He has been in a Mexican prison. I forget exactly where. He's been in a Mexican prison for 3 years. He has not touched soil. He has not had a warm meal. He has not had sex. He has not seen sunlight in 3 years. He is in a rough spot. He calls it purgatory because heaven would be to be let go, and hell would be to be murdered, executed. And then he's in purgatory where they won't let him out, but they won't let him die. And he has to listen to all the other prisoners have conjugal visits. And so he's just like super not enjoying Mexican prison. But he gains a roommate. If we recall back to the beginning, the waiter named Felix is thrown into the prison because he did not help carry Santa Ana's shot body. He refused to help, and so he was thrown in prison. Felix mentions Reese because Reese is the one who arrested him and got him thrown in prison. And Garth is like, Reese Montgomery? And Felix is like, yeah, that motherfucker. And Garth is like, my brother works for Mexico, for Santa Ana. He switched to the bad side. What? Like, he just can't believe his brother did that. He's so shocked. Again, cut back to Christmas dinner at Casa Montgomery. Alejandra's super weird about the staff eating with him. She's like, Pepe is super casual with Reese. And Alejandra keeps like, you should not talk to your master that way. You should not talk to your employer that way. That is not how your station needs to talk. And Reese and her Reese gets really upset about it. He's just like, Pepe is my friend. Stop being such a rich bitch about this. And Alejandra doesn't want to fight with Reese. And she's like, I'm really sorry. She apologizes to Pepe. Kind of. She's like, oh, I didn't know like this was allowed. Like, again, she was raised this way. I'm not saying she's okay for thinking this. I'm just saying she was literally raised to think these things, and she has not been exposed to any other lifestyle. Reese gets upset and really angry with her, but more angry than he needs to be. And she's like, what is happening? And he gets irate. He says that she's essentially just this rich, high-class snob who is trying to involve herself in men's affairs and a war because what? She's bored. She wants to help. And he's like, you'll help all of your male friends. If you just stay out of it, you're going to get everybody killed. You don't know what you're doing. You're trying to play this. You're trying to keep your, and he's like, you will never, ever let me just be your lover. You will always compare me to Miguel. You will always compare me to your husband. And she's just like, whoa, whoa. And she fires back at, he's just a playboy. He doesn't have any loyalties. He doesn't have loyalties to America. He doesn't have a loyalty to France, to Mexico. He's a piece of garbage. And she brings up his brother. And she's just like, you've been here for 2 years and you ain't done shit to go get your brother. That is a mistake, because that sets him into a violent outrage where he attempts to take her by force. It's very uncomfortable to read. And as he is trying, he rips her shirt off and starts to forcefully grope her. And she fights back by kneeing him in the groin and throwing sand in his eyes, of which you're like, yes, yes, yes. Thank God. Bless her heart. She's running down the beach, topless, screaming rapist. I can't imagine the fear she feels. It seems like every time they work together, something sets them off. And it's a lot. Like that scene was a lot. It was really fucked up. Alejandra has nowhere to go, so she has to go back to Casa de Montgomery. She has to go back to Reese's house. And luckily, when he's upset, he's like just walking down the beach, you know, getting sand out of his eyes. And Pepe's like, don't worry. When he's upset, he walks for hours. He's not going to come home. I went and got you that puppy. Reese wanted you to have the puppy. And Alejandra's like, I don't want the dog. I don't want the fucking puppy. Okay. I was literally just sexually assaulted by kind of my boyfriend. And this is a very roller coaster conversation in the sense that Pepe, he says, I'm so sorry. He really loves you. He wanted to give you this puppy. He truly does love you, Alejandra. And Alejandra's then like, yeah. And I really went too far with that brother comment. Of course he would try to sexually assault me. Who wouldn't? What? And Pepe then flips. Like, he gets her to forgive him, but then he flips and he's like, well, I can't work for him anymore. And Alejandra's like, why? And he says, because he hurt a Mexican woman. He hurt one of my women. I will fight for your honor. I will kill him. Alejandra then flips and is like, no, you can't. One, people are going to think we're together if you fight for my honor. Two, please don't kill Reese. I love him. Like, it's, oh God, it's so confusing because Pepe sticks up for him and she's like, no. And then she switches and is like, no, you can't kill him. I love him. Pepe's like, I have to. He hurt one of my women. And she makes the comment of Mexican men love their women, and she loves that about Mexican men. But then she's like, in this area, it's very inconvenient. She leaves. She threatens, like, if you kill Reese, I will come after you. She leaves. Reese shows up. He's still pissed. And he's like, Pepe, get me some water, rinse me off. Pepe's like, okay. And he pours cold water on Reese, and Reese fucking snaps. Again, Reese is having a time. And he snaps, and he calls Pepe every racist thing in the book, fires him, freaks out. Pepe's calm. He says, okay, I'm going to leave. No problem. I'm going to go pack my stuff. Reese says, no. Okay, wait, no. I'm sorry. I'm having a rough night. I'm having a rough day. It's Christmas. My brother's in a Mexican prison. I'm sitting here eating dinner, enjoying myself. Alejandra brought it up. I freaked out. I went into a rage. She's never going to talk to me again. Rightfully so. You poured cold water on me. He's like, I'm just having a rough time. But, okay, this is a big, this made my jaw. Because Pepe, he's taking his crucifix off the wall, packing it. He's like, no, I can't work for you for what you did to Alejandra. And Reese is like, well, I didn't rape her. And Pepe says, like, okay, you still really hurt her, man. I can't work for a man that's going to hurt a woman. That is the lowest form of a man. disgusting. If you can't get it freely and you have to take it, that is the lowest form of a man. And I will not work for a man that does that. No. Reese notices a Holy Bible on Pepe's nightstand. And it says, Holy Bible. And he opens it and it's in English. And Reese clicks in his little mind that maybe Pepe's understanding of English is not as bad as he thought it was. Keep in mind, Reese confesses and talks about a lot of things in English to Pepe, thinking he doesn't understand them. And Reese says, Jesus Christ. And Pepe says, it's not right to take the Lord's name in vain. And he says that in English, perfect English. He pulls a gun out on Reese and says, do you remember me? The Alamo? Remember the Alamo? And Reese is like, no. And it is revealed that Pepe works, he is a spy among spies, and he works for President Anastasio Bustamante, and his name is Captain Guillermo. So he is a captain in the Mexican army. He fought against Reese in the Alamo, and he was sent to spy on a spy. And the chapter closes on that. And you're like, whoopsie. Maybe don't be racist and think that every Mexican or native person doesn't speak English. Okay, a lot is happening at this Christmas. So, Alejandra takes Don Valentin to a charter boat that's supposed to take, because he's determined to get to this other city to help other Federalists. And so she's determined, and she gets there, and Latouche, Reese's French cousin, runs into them, intercedes, beats the crap out of the driver, tries to kill her. And she's like, I know Reese. I'm a Federalist. My dad's in your boat. Like, I'm Alejandra. And he's like, oh, like as he's about to kill her. And he's like, oh, okay. Why didn't you say anything? Anyways, she goes onto the boat. She runs into her dad. And she realizes that her and her dad have a lot in common in the sense that they will give up their loved ones for their countries. And she can't fault him for leaving his family. And we kind of get a reflection of why Alejandra probably is enticed to stay with Reese despite the violence in their relationship, is that she grew up around it because Pierre and her mom fought all the time, constantly making racist remarks against each other because they're different races, constantly making comments about money, just not a super loving marriage. And so I kind of took it as like, oh, no wonder she craves this form of love. It's what she was raised in. She asked Latouche, how long has it been since you've seen Reese? Because at this moment in time, it's been a while since she's seen Reese. And he mistranslate and says hours. And she's like, oh, okay, so Reese is still in the vicinity. He's just avoiding me. And she's leaving, and Latouche realizes he mistranslated, and he's trying to tell her, oh, no, it hasn't been hours. It's been days. It's been days since anyone has seen Reese. Where is he? Papa returns home to open arms. Mother is very happy to have her husband back. Alejandra realizes she has got to sell coffee. This war is really fucking with her export of coffee because the borders are kind of closed, and she has got coffee going stale and money is running low. She's a little stressed. She is stressed with this coffee plantation. People are really gross to her in town. She tries to go to town to find some buyers for her coffee. And again, this time, I don't fault her. She is seen as a fallen woman. She is a very charitable woman. She was a widow. She goes to church. She does everything you're supposed to do. And because she publicly flirted with a man at a dance, people are like, oh, so she's like a fallen woman. She's a whore. Oh, anyways, and so she meets with this one man. She swallows her pride, meets with this one man, says, I need to sell coffee to you. Like, he's a big buyer. And he's like, oh, sure. I just need to inspect it. She says, okay, yeah, You can totally go inspect it for sure. Yeah, it's the finest coffee in Mexico. And he's like, no, I need to inspect everything about this coffee inside and out and make sure it's a good quality. Kind of like that white man did. And you get the gist that he's talking about sleeping with her. She's obviously offended and very hurt that the town has turned on her. And she's very shamed. She goes back home, very upset, very stressed, because again, a lot of families rely on this plantation and she has to pay them. And she reflects on Miguel using a lot of money to fund his service in the army because Santa Ana required a lot of the rich soldiers to fund the army. So she's a little broke at the moment and kind of panicking. Papa comes in to save the day. He buys all of the coffee. And she doesn't like it for a pride reason, but then she realizes the families that rely on it, and so she swallows her pride again. It's a very humbling moment, humbling chapter for Alejandra. But then she realizes, Mercy comes and she's like, Dad's giving that to the French, right? He's giving that coffee to the French. And Alejandra's like, fuck. Oh, and Mercy's just like, it's out of your hands. You can't negate what happens to your coffee once you sell it. That's kind of the point. Mercy says in order to save her reputation, Alejandra's reputation, she must marry Reese. And so Alejandra reflects on that, if she wants to marry Reese or not. Mercy leaves town to go check on baby Chico because Josie and Chico went back to her village. And it's kind of a big move because Mercy's kind of been like a Blanche Devereaux this whole book. Very loud, flamboyant, saucy. And she's like, I have to leave town. I have to go check on the baby. And Alejandra's like, you have to do what? You care about somebody? Crazy. There is news that Santa Ana will become president of Mexico. Alejandra is super bummed about this. She becomes desperate. She doesn't know where Erasmo is. She doesn't know where Reese is. She's kind of like, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to go kill Santa Ana myself. Yeah, I'll just do that. I'll just go kill him myself. Of course. And there's literally one paragraph where it cuts to Reese and Pepe, and they're cool. They're cool again. They go gambling for 2 days after Christmas. They're fine. Best friends forever. Alejandra makes the mission to get to Santa Ana better than Reese ever could. Not in a sexual way, don't worry. But she's like, I will get close to him. She does go to his house, and his wife is like, no, you can't see him. You're a whore. Yeah, no. And luckily, like, I guess Santa Ana's like, oh, no, me and Danya go way back. Like, bring her in. And he's sitting there, and he's sipping on his opium. Back then, they didn't understand the long-term effects, I guess. And so he is really hitting that opium. Was it called laudanum back then? Anyways, really hitting that. And she tries to kill him, but can't. So she can't kill him, but she does realize that Santa Ana really trusts her and sees her as a model Mexican woman. And so that's when she's like, okay, I'll influence Santa Ana. I won't kill him, but I'll influence him. They are all traveling. Santa Ana's party are traveling to Mexico City so that he can become president of Mexico. Alejandra is there. Reese is there. Reese is avoiding her, but Dr. Edward, an American doctor from New York, and Alejandra are getting real tight. And he's the doctor to Santa Ana. He doesn't want to be, but what are you going to do? He's like, I'd really like to go back home. And him and Alejandra are becoming pretty tight. It is discussed of Santa Ana's pedophilia. He is wildly, in history and in this book, known to enjoy young girls. And everybody thinks it's absolutely disgusting. It is. That is not accurate. His daughter, Maribel, flirts with Reese. Alejandra's not having it. And she snatches Maribel up. They have a little cat fight. Reese grabs her, says, we need to go talk. Reese still says no to Alejandra. She's like, I'm sorry. It was really, she's apologizing to him. She's apologizing to him because Mercy and her mom had recently said, why is Reese mad at you? And Alejandra's like, oh, I really hurt his pride. I really said some mean things. And he like really sexually assaulted me on a beach. And her sister and her mom are like, well, you can't do that, Allie. You can't hurt a man's pride. Of course he tried to rape you. What do you expect? A man's pride is all they have. You can't possibly invoke that anger. Like, you're stupid and you deserved it. Again, this time period. And it happens to this day. Because I was recently watching a K-drama and the girl beat up her ex-boyfriend for stalking her. And her mom was mad at her at the police station saying, why would you do that? You can't hit a man. He's a man. What is a girl like you hitting a man for? And I'm like, what is happening? So it still happens to this day in some areas and circles and cultures. Anyways, they go for a walk. They kind of make up. Reese makes a comment on how awesome Texas is. He's like, oh, Texas is the best. And keep in mind, Alejandra's been to like Paris, London, New York, Mexico City. Like, she's a very well-traveled, well-rounded girl, but she's never been to Texas. And he is pumping Texas up. He's like, oh my God, it's beautiful. It's awesome. And she's like, oh my God, I kind of want to go. But he makes a comment of, she says, oh, but I bet there's a lot of unrest, kind of like in Mexico. And he's like, no, not since the Mexicans left. It's fine now. And she has to bite her tongue. I wouldn't have, but she has to bite her tongue. Because, later on in their relationship, she probably brought that up. Like, you do know that the Mexicans recently got rid of the Spaniards. We're fighting with the Americans over the Alamo. Lost northern Mexico. And then we have the French breathing down our necks. And then the English are showing up. We're a little stressed as a country. Wouldn't say it's uncivilized, just say a little spread thin. A lot of men are dying. A lot of women and children are being murdered. The economy is not doing well. And who do we have to lean on? An opium addicted man with one leg. I would not say that it is that Mexicans are uncivil. I would say they are a little hard pressed at the time. But it was wild of him to be like, no, Texas is fine now that the Mexicans are gone. What? So they again go teamwork. We're going to be a team. Teamwork makes the dream work. And this quote that he says, I had to call my husband and ask what the hell he was talking about, because I am on the spectrum. And so a lot of little old timey sayings I take literally, and they're a very big roadblock for me in a conversation because I won't let go of how irrational they are. Anyways, so I had to have him explain this one to me because I was having a real tism moment. It goes like this. She says, "You've prevailed in capturing my love." What did you say? I said, "I love you, Reese Montgomery." "Handra, my darling, are you sure about that?" "As sure as the heat in August. I think we've talked enough about the past, my Handra. Shall we get on to the future?" Capital idea. "Handra, I'm not talking about talking. Are you referring to this?" And she fondles him. And he says, "I'm not talking about the price of eggs in China." What? What? And I asked Cody what that meant. And he said, that's kind of like, I'm not talking nonsense. To which I said, the price of eggs in China? What does that would have absolutely stopped me in my tracks if I was getting hot and heavy and some guy said, I'm not talking about the price of eggs in China. I would have been like, whoa, what? The price of eggs in China? Why do you care about the price of eggs in China? Oh, it's just a saying. A saying meaning what? Nonsense. Nonsense is the price of eggs in China? Why? It's just a saying, Montana. But why the price of eggs in China? Why that? Why not the price of wool in Antarctica? Like, why that? I don't know. It just really threw me for a loop. It would have really distracted. I told Cody, I was like, that would have really distracted me. And he's like, oh, I know. He's like, yeah. Yeah. He's like, I know not to say certain things because you will be stopped in your tracks for about 10 minutes just reeling, going, what? I promise we're getting down to as if it wasn't dramatic enough. I promise we're getting down to the nitty gritty. We're getting down to like less than 10 chapters here. We cut to Santa Anna and Reese talking, and Reese brings, and they talk about Alejandra because Santa Anna's like, are y'all dating or like what? Like, what is happening? And Reese is like, oh, well, she's really torn up about her ex-husband. And he's like, oh, Miguel. Yeah, I know Miguel. And Reese asks, you know, was he a good guy? And Santa Anna says, no. He was very critical of my decisions. He was very critical of my position. So I sent him to lead the first charge into the Alamo, knowing that it would be a suicide mission. And I knew that he would be captured and tortured for days. And Reese is relieved because for Alejandra's sake, she will appreciate that her dead husband, you know, was not a Santanista. However, gonna be kind of a bummer to tell her he was tortured for a few days and literally starved to death. That's not gonna be a super fun conversation. We cut back to Garth and Felix in prison, and Felix has an escape plan, and they do escape. It doesn't allude to exactly what happens, but he's like, I got some friends. We're gonna bust out of here. You wanna come with? And Garth doesn't want to. Garth is trying to starve himself to death. He stopped eating because he's like, I really should just die. I don't want to be here anymore. It's been 3 years. My brother's not coming for me. But the promise of his wife being alive makes him agree to live. And this is unfortunate because it has been sprinkled throughout the book that Becky, Garth's wife, and their child are dead. They tried to flee Texas during the battle and they died in the flee. I think they drowned in like a river or something. But the hope of his wife and child being alive is what keeps him going. And so they escape. But we in the book know Becky is not alive. Again, Reese is going to have a lot of bummer conversations. We go back to Mexico City. The puppy is finally named. This dog hasn't been named forever. Alejandra finally accepts the puppy. His name is Francisco II because he is a little whiny French poodle. So they name him after the French prince, but they call him Frisco. I would love to hear this story from the eyes of this dog. Cause like, let's make a Disney movie out of it, if you will. There is a French poodle that is pregnant on a boat from France to Mexico. She's sitting there like, I cannot deliver on this ship. I've got to stretch my legs. I've got to get out of here. Like I can't. And so she escapes off the ship, goes and gives birth to her little French poodle babies on Mexican soil behind a bar. The bartender sees them. Oh my goodness, let me help you. Takes the babies in, feeds them chilies with good intentions. But I'm just like, wow. I mean, if I gave my dogs green chili, woo, that'd be a mess. Again, I don't advise it, but you know, they're worm free. So this puppy is French, was incubated on a French fleet, born on Mexican soil, fed Mexican chilies, is taken in, you know, by Reese. No one wants him. So he's just wandering around Reese's house, just like, cool. He sees the altercation go down with Reese and Pepe, and he's just probably under the bed like, what is happening? He is then traveling to Mexico City with all of this drama and these people, and he's probably hearing like Santa Anna's plans and Reese and Alejandra's plans. He's this neutral party that's hearing literally the overthrow of like Mexican government from a puppy's perspective. They're in Mexico City, and now he is running around a room in Mexico City. Again, like to be told this story from his eyes. Frisco is going through a lot. Santa Anna and Alejandra have another meeting. She's kind of turning into his confidant because she's a woman. He is steadily taking that opium and he is getting crazier and crazier and more paranoid. He wants to set her sister Mercy up with the doctor. And so he invites Mercy to his entourage, and Alejandra's like, I don't know if that's going to work out because Mercy is in love with another man, baby Chico. We cut to Mercy is in the village where Jose and baby Chico are. She is talking to a priest that is there, and she wants to adopt Chico. She wants to have Joaquin's son as her own, but the priest, talks her out of it because he's like, she brings up like, I can buy him anything. He will live the most lavish life I can provide, more than this village can. And the priest brings up the fact that, but nothing can buy out a mother. Nothing can replace a mother. And Mercy understands that, luckily. She understands no matter how much money and love she could give baby Chico, his mother would never replace his birth mother. Cut to Jose and Chico in their little hut, and this made me cry. Trigger warning for just sad baby stuff. The baby doesn't die, don't worry, but it's just really sad. About, I guess, like, having to give up a child and stuff. But Jose, he's playing with this really expensive toy that Mercy bought him, and she lays him out on this really nice blanket that Mercy bought them, and she hands him a gourd, which is what kids play with in her village, and he throws it, and she laughs, and she's like, I love you so much, and I would keep you here forever and ever. And we get the gist that she is in a lot of pain, a lot of physical pain. Something is not right after giving birth. Something did not set right. And she has been vomiting blood for a while, and her stomach has swollen. And she, with tears in her eyes and very affectionately, is playing with this baby and tickling his nose, and he's chewing on her finger, and she's just expressing how much she loves baby Chico. And although he looks like his father, he will be such a grand man and so much more than his father ever was. And she will raise him right, and she will raise him here with love. But as she's promising this with tears in her eyes, she's also coughing up blood and understands her time is limited. She's wrapping him in one of his not expensive blankets, one of their native blankets, and puts him in a basket, and is again affectionately telling him how much she loves him and how wonderful his mother, Mercy, will be. And she will love him and give him a beautiful home, and to never forget, here and this life he had here and who his mother was, just never forget where he came from. And she puts the basket at the priest's door and leaves, and is presumed that she passes away. It's later in the book, but I'll go ahead and say she goes to a ritual site for one of their pagan gods and passes away in the temple. And I was crying because I'm not saying like if you're not a mom, you don't understand this pain. I'm just saying as a mom, I cannot fathom the sorrow she was feeling of having to hold that baby and know that she was not going to get to enjoy motherhood. And so much could be said right now about that feeling and about that politically. And sidebar, not to break up the somber mood, but if you hear a bunch of click clacking in the background, that is my dogs. I have them closed out of this room because I have a lot of wires on the floor, and I don't want them to pull the wires and knock everything down, like my tripod and stuff. So they are just click clacking by this door. I should go put them in the bathroom or something. We have a quick cut to Erasmo as he says he's out of prison or something, and he makes a promise to himself that he will go find Mercy and ask for her hand in marriage. I think he makes his way to the village. I'm not sure. It's not crazy important, but he's on the pursuit for Mercy and wanting her hand in marriage. And then Erasmo ends up in the city, and we cut to Alejandra and Reese. They are fighting again. I think it's over like Alejandra wanting to go see Erasmo. Reese is saying that's very dangerous. Erasmo is a wanted man. It would ruin the work that you have gotten so far with Santa Ana. Please don't do this. She's like, he's my best friend. I have to go see him. Reese brings up Maribel. Like, well, I have to go escort her somewhere, and it'd be so nice to be in the presence of a woman who's not a raging fucking bitch. He doesn't say that verbatim, but that's the vibe. And luckily, Alejandra's a girl's girl, and her and Maribel are friends. And she's like, I hope you do escort her. That would be very nice of you. Please tell her safe travels, and I will miss her. Have fun. Reese is gone for weeks. Okay. He just ups and all these guys just up and disappear. But it was the time before cell phones, so I guess you just could do that. Mercy comes to the city. She has little baby Chico. She explains that Jose left the baby on the priest's doorstep, and they found her dead body at a pagan ritual site. So Mercy has adopted baby Chico. Alejandra does go talk to Erasmo in the cathedral, and he's very upset because he's like, Mercy has this baby, and now another doctor husband, another one, and he's very upset. And as Alejandra is like, again, trying to find Reese, she goes downtown with Frisco, the little puppy in hands, and he sees Reese, and he pops out over her bosom, and he goes and sees Daddy. And Reese isn't super thrilled to see her, but they do make up because he just can't say no to her. She's just so pretty. They have a dinner with Santa Ana where he says that he will have a countrywide funeral for his leg in a glass casket. And then he will have it put up in the church so that pilgrims can go worship it. And everybody, even the people who work for, like, not Reese, like actual guys who work for Santa Ana are just like, this guy's insane. What? Reese and Alejandra, they go and they make love. They make love next to 3 dozen candles. That's like, what, 36 candles? That's a lot of, that'd be hot for one. Well, I guess this is in the winter because it's after Christmas. But still, that is very dangerous and very warm. And that's 36 candles to light. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's very bright. That's also very bright. And it is under the glow, the huge glow of, I imagine, 36 long candles, where Reese proposes to Alejandra. They make a plan to leave Mexico because Reese is like, I gotta go free my brother, but we also should move to Texas and live there, and we'll live on the frontier, and you'll be a frontier wife, and it'll be so fun. And I made my first YouTube video was of the Little House on the Prairie series. I don't have a microphone. But the vibe's there. I just can't help but think of like the rough reality of the frontier and little Alejandra. And I'm just like, don't do it, girl. Don't do it. Don't do it. But they make a plan to leave for Texas. And on the way there, they will stop and free his brother from prison. Sure. However, as they are about to leave Santa Ana, because they are like, we have to leave like right now. We have to leave, like, blow these candles out. And we got to roll. We don't have time because the more we think about it, the more people are going to know that we're going to leave. But Santa Ana calls on Alejandra. And she's like, shit. And she's in riding gear. And so it's like pretty obvious that she's going to go somewhere. And it's like the middle of the night. And he's like, okay. And she goes. Because it would be more obvious if she didn't go. So she's like, I will meet you. I'm going to go. She goes. Santa Ana is again hitting that opium, and he is like, why are you wearing riding gear? And she says, oh, I couldn't sleep. I was going to go for a ride. And he's like, I bet you were going for a ride with Reese. And she's like, well, of course, we are engaged. We are engaged. And Santa Ana attempts to sexually assault her. Like, yeehaw. Luckily, he has one leg and is high on opium. So she is able to get away. But he says, like, you are a Mexican woman. You should do this for your country. You should love riding my staff. Yikes. Yikes. And she, of course, is like, but I'm so old. I'm so old. Don't you love younger women? I'm so old compared to what you're used to. And he's like, I'll make exceptions. And as she is leaving, she pushes him down. He's screaming. His guards come. And she has the puppy with her at this time. I don't know why Reese didn't take the puppy, but apparently she has this dog with her all the time. Please cover your ears for 5 seconds as I admit some rough puppy abuse. Okay, plug your ears, count to 5. The guards throw Frisco down the stairs. Don't worry, I will spoil it because I know you need to know he does live. But wow. And for those who are joining us after blocking their ears for 5 seconds, don't worry, Frisco will live. That's all you need to know. Cut 2. This is literally like the last 5 chapters, and it is happening so fast. It is so, again, exhausting, not badly written by any means and a bad story. Just, holy crap, so much is happening. Erasmo is at a cousin of Alejandra and Mercy. Now, this is weeks after this happened. They did make it out of Mexico City, but they are on the run and they are disguised as like peasant Mexicans. It is Mercy, Maribel, Santa Ana's daughter, the doctor, the baby's wet nurse that now can't get milk because leaving scared her so bad it's dried her up, so she's there. Reese, the puppy. It's a big party, and they got help from one of her cousins. Erasmo shows up at that cousin's house, and he's like, "Why did you help my darling Mercy escape to America with this doctor? I love her. How could you?" And the cousin is really racist and classist, and he is like, "How dare you talk to me that way? What do you expect to happen? She's going to go to America. Her and Alejandra are leaving you to go to America with their fancy American boyfriends, their white American boyfriends, and they're going to live a grand life. And what will happen to you, you dirty, nasty coffee owner? You're just going to be a peasant. You're just going to run your little cafe, and you will never, ever amount to anything because all of your friends and your love of your life have left you." And Erasmo obviously is very upset, but he doesn't get mad yet because he is a man of his station. And so he's like, I can't possibly yell at this rich white guy. But he finally snaps because this cousin keeps just berating him and almost taking joy in it. He's doing too much. He's doing too much. Not very gentlemanly like, since he keeps bringing up being a gentleman. And Erasmo snaps and strangles him to death. And we are kind of getting the inkling that Erasmo is kind of hitting his breaking point. Felix is in prison. Mercy's gone to marry doctor number 2. She has a baby. She's going to live life just fine. Alejandra's with her, Reese Montgomery, and they're going to be just fine. And he's like, what the, Erasmo has been through a lot. And so I'm not saying he's right in going kind of crazy. I'm just saying, I understand he's hitting a breaking point. He steals a horse and is out to go get Mercy. Our crew are trying to find food out in this pursuit in the Mexican desert. The men go to find food because remember, he's a big time hunter and he can go get game. And Mercy and Alejandra take their like crocheted shawls and catch fish. And Reese is really stressed out because he's like, I gotta get my brother. I have like 19,000. The baby's crying. The dog's barking. The wet nurse is really just like useless cargo at this point because she's not doing her job. The baby's hungry. No one has milk. He's really stressed out. And Pepe hasn't shown up because Pepe was supposed to go to a village to find food. Pepe does show up and he has a goat. And Reese is like, that is the goat that broke the camel's back. He's just like, no, we're not doing a goat. We're supposed to be incognito. We are wanted. And you're wanting to bring a goat? And of course the women are like, well, the goat's fine. It's a goat. You can put it in the carriage with us and it'll feed the baby. The gang splits up and Reese wants it to be him and Pepe to go get his brother out of prison. But Alejandra kind of is like, we didn't come this far for us to be split up again. You either take me with you or you'll never see me again. And he's like, okay, you can come. The gang splits up and they are making really good progress to the last prison to check for Garth. However, banditos stop them. They try to obviously rob them, murder them, rape them, banditos things. And Alejandra kills a man. She shoots one of them. I think his name's Enrique. She shoots one of them. Feels really bad. But now she can say she's killed a man. And it turns out he was a Federalist. And she, in this whole book, out of all the people she has tried to kill, the one person she does is literally a Federalist. And she feels really bad. Rightfully so. But these banditos, they talk to Reese and Alejandra. And they know where Garth is. He's literally making saddles in one of their friends' barns to raise money so he can travel. We get a reunion of Garth and Reese. And I feel kind of bad that they don't allow themselves to super express emotion. I know it's of the time, but I just feel really bad because it says they don't cry, but tears are in their eyes. And I'm like, you should cry. You should cry. Please cry. Crying would be so nice right now. Please cry. But I just know it's such a big deal. And I feel like they just kind of slap each other on the back and do one of those real hard man hugs where they slap each other. And they're just like, I missed you, man. How was prison? Not too awesome. You made it out. Sure did. But Garth stops for a second and he's like, you work for Santa Ana. Reese explains himself, says, I only did it so I could find you. Garth is like, you son of a bitch. Okay. Alejandra goes inside the house while the boys are reuniting. She goes inside the house and she reunites with Felix. Now, she recognizes him as the waiter at Oresmo's restaurant that made the let them eat cake joke. Ha ha ha. He doesn't recognize her just yet. But Felix, keep in mind, Reese is the guy that put Felix in prison. Kind of awkward. And so Garth and Reese show up in the house. Felix is in bed because he's kind of sick. And he pulls out a gun on Reese and is like, you motherfucker. It is very tense. Garth tries to talk to Felix and tell him, hey, he didn't mean to. He didn't mean to send you to prison. It's okay now. Obviously, Felix does not care. But just as he's about to pull the trigger, Erasmo shows up and busts the door down. What? Erasmo shows up, busts the door down, and tells Felix, don't do it. He kind of explains a little bit what's happening. It's so confusing to everybody because everybody's like, no, I know he was Santa Ana's best man, and he works for the French, but he's on our side. And then Alejandra, it's a lot. Okay, Erasmo has one last scheme up his sleeve. He wants to go steal Santa Ana's leg. It's about to be put on tour, like a dead body, in a glass casket. And he's like, if we go steal the leg, Santa Ana will show how crazy he is, and then everybody will turn against him. And Alejandra's like, sure, one for the road. This is literally the last 5 pages of the book. And I'm like, what is about to happen? How are they going to wrap this up? As Erasmo and Alejandra leave to go steal Santa Ana's leg, he kind of has a breakdown. And Alejandra is realizing this wasn't the wisest decision because she left without telling Reese that she was leaving. And he is having a mental breakdown. Rightfully so. He's kind of been put through the ringer in his life. He berates Mercy. He's heartbroken. He's heartbroken over Alejandra leaving him. He is just absolutely going crazy. And I just would love to see this performance. I would love to see this as a mini series. Oh, it would be amazing. But this performance, I feel an actor could really milk, of this like political extremist who has put everything on the line. He has involved all of these people into his life, trying to help Mexico, want to be a Mexican hero, and he has been dealt nothing but just Joker card, Joker card, Joker card. And he's just like, again, just picturing like they're in this barn, this warehouse, you know, there's the leg, and he's holding a gun, and he's just getting crazier and frantic and more frantic, and just like, well, I know you and your sister, y'all just like all these white guys. You just want white guys. And no, I'm going to make you steal the leg with me. And we'll be Mexican heroes. And we will go down in history. And Alejandra's like, yeah. And he's like, why didn't you help Mercy? She loves me. She loves me. She wants to be with me. She needs to be with me. Why didn't you help her see that? I will go steal her. I will kidnap her, and I will make her my wife. And, you know, you're just as racist as she is. You think you're better than me, don't you? You think I'm just some dumb, you know, Indian coffee shop owner, and you don't understand. And it's really tense. And he goes to attack Alejandra. And as he goes to attack her, Reese stabs him. Shows up, kills him out of self-defense, but kills him. Erasmo's body is laid crumpled on the floor. It is actually really tragic because, again, he just wanted to help his country and to have the love of his life. But because of his skin tone and his place in life, he was kind of left shit out of luck. I really feel like if this was a miniseries, the character of Erasmo would be probably the most, more so than Reese, that would be the role that you would want, because that is a very complicated man. That would be a very good best supporting Oscar would go to whoever plays that role. Reese kills Erasmo, and he tells Alejandra, make your choice. Do you want the leg? Do you want me? Do you want frontier life in Texas, or do you want to try to steal his leg? And Alejandra makes her choice. And now, class, real quick, I'm going to give you the last paragraph of the chapter, and then I'm going to tell you what happens the epilogue, and then read the last page of that literal book. But this one, it's real weird, because this is the last we see. The epilogue does not include Alejandra. So I feel like it would be injustice to not include her last words. There's no need to think on my decision. I assure you, the only plans I have are with you, Reese Montgomery. A slow smile spread across his rugged face as he turned to face her. I hope I heard you right. I didn't stutter, Alejandra replied, elevating her chin. He grabbed her into his arms, lifting her from the ground as his lips descended in a long and toe-tingling kiss. Don't ever forget that. And she didn't. And that is kind of the closing on their story. Now, the epilogue is worse. The epilogue cuts to Santa Ana as he is being exiled from his country. He is in the ship, teary-eyed. It goes through kind of his failings and how he feels throughout this novel, like, you know. And apparently the last straw within this novel, I won't say in history, within this fictional novel, the last straw for the Mexican people with Santa Ana was he put his leg on display, and then his wife died, and 30 days later he married a child. And so they broke his leg out of the glass casket, chunked it somewhere, and exiled him. They were tired of this drug addicted man, pedophile, running the country. And he's on a ship, and Reese shows up because Reese is his escort, because they felt that he was the most appropriate person for it, I guess. And so Santa Ana and Reese are reflecting on all that has happened, all the shortcomings, the battles, this and that. Santa Anna asks Reese how his life in Texas is. They're drinking, whatever. Quote, this is Santa Anna. Tell me, Cazador, what about the beauteous Alejandra? Is she too tired from the bustle of family to enjoy her life? She's as happy as I am. Decanter in hand, Cazador walked across the rolling cabin deck. I said she was busy, not tired. We have ample servants to see to her needs. Why do you think I work so hard at my success? With a woman like Handra, I must make sure of her comforts. I damn sure can't trust her in the kitchen. Cazador inhaled a big breath of air, blowing it as he shook his head. I wouldn't dare trust her in the kitchen. She's that bad, huh? Worse than bad. That woman burned everything before I put a stop to her efforts. Santa Anna laughed. Oh, it was good to belly roll. He felt better than he felt in a long time. Rejuvenated, perhaps. If he could have Cazador back at his side, he could conquer the world. But his friend had another life, and Santa Anna wouldn't begrudge it. But he did think of one of the reasons that Tejano had courted favor in the first place. A forefinger to his upper lip. Santa Anna said, You haven't mentioned Senor Colby. What happened to him? Cazador's eyes went sad. He turned his back to refill the drinks and said, He's another story. That's the ending of the book. What? Oh my God, this book was so much. This is my fastest rendition of this book. Imagine if you read it. Okay? You can imagine, a lot of characters got cut in this final edit. Some plot lines cut. I can't cover everything in these books. What is that ending? So off after everything that we have been through with Alejandra and Reese. And that's the last line that we get, that he's like holding her as she looks at Santa Anna's leg and her dead friend that got her in this whole entire business. And she's like, I choose you, Texas boy. And he's like, I knew it. That's the ending. That's the ending. And then the epilogue is like Santa Anna's crazy ass. And he's just like, how's the home life? Fun? A friend? And Reese is like, oh, it's fine. We have kids. Alejandra's a great wife. I have to work real hard so she has her servants. She loves her servants. And then the whole reason, like, again, the reason that Reese was involved in Mexico in the first place, even went to Texas, was to save his brother from being arrested. That's the whole reason he left God-given St. Louis or New Orleans, where the fuck he was. And he was for his brother. And then when he get asked about his brother, he says, that's another story. No, that is not another story. That is this story. Tell me what happened. That is this story right here, right now. Tell me what happened. I'm hurt. I'm confused. I'm enraged. That is an artistic choice, Miss Hicks. That is an artistic choice. Wow. As if the last book's ending wasn't wild enough, this one's so far our wildest ending, in the sense that it doesn't end with the main characters technically. Because usually the epilogues kind of like cut to like where our characters are, like in the first one, it cut to like where Alexandra and Sharif were, all that good stuff. This one, like, what? Okay, I'll stop reeling about it. So, okay, Montana's thoughts on this novel. As if like I didn't sprinkle them throughout this recap. This novel is very dense. This is a very, I'm not saying this and like trying to be like aesthetically Mexican here, but this is a tres leches of a cake. This is a lot of stuff. This is a lot of layers. This is an ocho leches of a cake. This is a lot of layers, a lot of density. It's very rich, very moist, not a dry eye. I cried a lot. felt all of the characters in all of these books, honestly, but this one especially, all of the characters, even Felix, and cutting to him in prison and his commentary on the war and stuff, being a young man, like even Felix the waiter was a very developed character that you cared about. There was no throwaway character. Marbell, she only had a few lines. You still cared about what happened to her. Even, like I said, Frisco, I'd love to see this story told from the puppy standards, Because, imagine this now. Okay, so he was born on the Mexican streets. He's been seen in the overthrow of Santa Ana. He is now in the Texas frontier. And those, American dogs are probably like, oh, look at this French poodle. Look at little Frenchie here. And Frisco's like, motherfucker. Fucking play with me. Play with me. Come on. Play with me. Come here. You have no idea what I've been through. I've been fed fucking chili since the day I was born, mother. Come on, cowboy, dance. And he's probably got one of those Mexican fighting chicken spurs, in his fur. And he's just like, come on. I would love to see that movie. You think Disney will make that? Frisco's probably like Kevin Hart's Snowball in That Secret Life of Pets. Just, uppercut, body blow. Very rich. Again, these books, if you see them, people would be like, that's such a stupid, it's about a Latin lover and her white boyfriend. Of which, these books are always different cultures, different races, different religions. It's never just two white people being white. It's just never two people of the same background just vibing. It's always some kind of class system, race, religion. It's always some kind of Romeo and Juliet, different worlds in these novels. And I guess we see that with a lot of modern romances today and fan fiction is, I guess people just love from other places. Alejandra, she is a woman. I commented this with someone else recently. They asked when I mentioned that this was kind of Mad Men-esque in the sense that a lot is happening. There's a lot of complex, tragic characters. It's kind of it's not a good time. If this was made into a television series, this would not be something too much like The Sopranos and Mad Men and all that stuff. This is not something to have a good time with. This is kind of dark. You're not going to have fun. Because I love Mad Men, but that is not a fun show to watch. It is not something I can binge because I feel bad. It's really sad. It's a lot of tragic people. There's not a good character on that show. Anyways, they asked, was she a Betty? Was she a Peggy? Whatever. And I said that she was a lot like January Jones's character, Betty Draper in Mad Men, in the sense that, and you could do a character study. I think that these are similar women in the sense that they were raised in very traditional, very conservative, classist societies. They were told, you will be a wife, you will be a mother, you will be the head of your little household. And they did that. And they were like, yes, that is what I will do. And then the men in their lives, from their fathers to their lovers to just the men of the era, treat them with such an injustice. And these women are so confused because women of the time, they don't know the power they have. It's just, again, a character study of these traditional women who then often too late realize the power that they have in their lives and take control. And truly, they just want, throughout, I'm not saying in the end, but truly throughout, they just want to be told what to do almost. A lot of people can sympathize with that because a lot of people want to be told, you're going to be a mom, you're going to be a dad, you're going to be this, you're going to be that, you're going to be a hairdresser, you're going to be a teacher. They want their little roles because that makes life easy. That's the comfort when you go, my role is I'm a mom and that is my duty. And that's why a lot of moms kind of go crazy when their kids grow up and leave the nest, is they're like, well, now what am I? And a lot of men too, because a lot of men are promised, you will be this, you will be that. And it never cracks up to what their promises are, the patriarchy promises them. And I feel like that's Alejandra's crux in this, is she kind of just desperately wants to be told, like, I'm a Federalist, so therefore I will save Mexico. And then that turns out to be kind of hard. And then she's like, okay, I'll be Santa Anna's best friend, and I'll do it that way. And that turns out to be hard. And then she's like, okay, well, I'll go be a wife in Texas and a frontier woman. That's what I'll be. She kind of reinvents herself a lot, but never truly finding out who Alejandra is. Like, what do you like, girl? What do you want to do? Where do you want to live? And I feel like even Mercy, as more independent and headstrong she is, even she kind of succumbs to, this guy will marry me, I will have this baby, and we'll go live in New York and it'll be fine. And I understand at that time, that's what you wanted, was like money, a husband that wouldn't like kill you, and kids. Like, that was the goal. So I'm not faulting these women for it, for like, why don't y'all want more? I'm just saying it kind of sucks psychologically. Again, it's really limiting to their characters. And now Reese, I don't like Reese. Reese, again, is a machismo, big guy, big personality, Texas boy. This is how we do in Texas. You're going to love Texas. Again, the Texas man has not evolved since this. They all think the sun shines only in Texas. I find it really funny that a lot of white Texas men are so racist against Mexicans, much kind of like Reese. They're just like, man, the Mexicans are really ruining Texas. And everybody with a brain is like, but it's not just Texas, because I can speak from my experience. A lot of white people are mad at a lot of black people that live in Louisiana. And I can't help but be like, why do you think they're here? Anyways, it is wild. But aside from the racist commentary of this novel, it does speak to the racism within its own country. You know, we see a lot of the characters like Josie and Erasmo and Felix face a lot of racism from their fellow Mexicans due to the color of their skin and the languages that they speak and the villages that they come from. And that continues to this day, sadly. So I thought that was really interesting and wise of the author to touch on. But yeah, Reese, sorry, back to Reese. He is an honorable man in the sense he did a lot for his brother. My siblings would never. Sibling bonds must be stronger back then, because my siblings would never. They'd be like, oh, she's in a Mexican prison? Bummer. Anyways, my sister would mail probably like letters and stuff, though. My sister would probably mail like a care package. I don't know if she'd do anything to get me out. All in all, this book is very complicated, very complex, very dark, written very well researched. Wasn't the history and the cultural stuff wasn't pulled out of this white lady's ass. And I think if you are interested in the pastry wars and the aftermath of the Alamo and how the French handled the invasion and, you know, the complexity of the Mexican citizens having to deal with so much breathing down their necks, great book to read. All right. I don't know about y'all, but I'm a little exhausted with the historical romances. So for spooky season, I have ordered 4 70s, 60s Pulp Fiction horror novels. I think one's from the 80s. The vampire one's from the 80s. Anyways, and the first on that list is going to be Ghost Song. Hold on, crank that up for you. Ghost Song. Okay. By Dorothy Daniels. Fame, love, and wealth would be hers as long as she sang with a dead woman's voice. Yeah. The back. Dark bondage. Lovely dark-haired Mavis longed for an opera career. In vain, she thought. But then one night she dreamed of Ernestine Hillary, the fabled soprano whose life had ended tragically and mysteriously 16 years before. When Mavis awoke, she had a new voice. A voice that uncannily resembled that of Ernestine Hillary. Mavis became an overnight sensation. Her singing won her universal acclaim and the fervent love of the handsome young architect Claude Viant. Only too late did Mavis realize the prize of her success, a dark bondage to a vengeful ghost who had already killed once and would kill again. Spooky story about a possession. Cool. And look at these edges. I love how nowadays, my friend just recently sent me a sprayed edges edition of a book. And I'm like, girl, they were doing this at the drugstore novels in when was this made? Don't tell me, book. 1974. Okay. Again, we got to learn. This has been sprayed edges have been going on in a drugstore novel. Okay. And y'all are sitting here wanting, cool prints with the fancy edges and the covers. And it's just like, this was a pocket novel with sprayed edges. Okay. Get with it. But yes, that will be the next book that we read. Okay. And I'm very excited. I'm very excited to read some spooky, kooky stories. So that is all. Go take a shot of tequila. Just go lay down and stare at the ceiling after hearing this story, all right? And I will see y'all hopefully in the next week with our next old vintage novel. Bye.